Hercules stands as one of the most beloved figures in mythology, a symbol of strength, courage, and resilience. His story is woven with threads of triumph and tragedy, reflecting the human experience in all its complexity. Born to the mighty god Zeus and the mortal Alcmene, Hercules was destined for greatness. Yet, his journey was anything but easy. From his earliest days, the gods and fate seemed to conspire against him, setting the stage for a life filled with challenges that would shape his character and legacy. As a baby, Hercules faced an unimaginable threat. In a fit of jealousy, Hera, Zeus's wife, sent 2 serpents to kill him in his crib. But even as an infant, Hercules demonstrated his extraordinary strength. With a fierce determination, he seized the snakes and crushed them in his tiny hands, a sign of the hero he would become. This moment marked the beginning of a life defined by battles against fearsome foes and impossible odds. Hercules was not just a figure of brute strength, he was a hero with a heart. His adventures took him across the known world, facing daunting tasks that tested his courage and resolve. The 12 labors, a series of seemingly impossible challenges, were assigned to him as punishment, a way for the gods to remind him of his mortal side. Each labor was a reflection of his inner struggles, forcing him to confront not only monstrous beasts, but also the darker aspects of his own nature. In the Greek world, Hercules was more than a hero, he was a symbol of hope and perseverance. His tales were told around fires, bringing people together in awe of his feats. Whether slaying the ferocious Nemean lion or capturing the swift Ceryneian hind, each labor echoed the values of bravery and determination. People found solace in his story, as it reminded them that even the strongest could falter and face adversity. Hercules became a beacon of strength in a world often fraught with chaos and uncertainty. As time passed, the Romans adopted Hercules into their culture, further enriching his legacy. To them, he represented the ideal Roman citizen, strong, virtuous, and unyielding. The Romans admired his relentless spirit and sought to emulate his bravery. In their eyes, Hercules was not just a mythological figure, he was a symbol of their identity and values. They celebrated him in festivals, built statues in his honor, and shared tales of his bravery, allowing his spirit to thrive long after the original Greek tales faded into the background. Hercules' significance in Roman culture extended beyond mere admiration. He embodied the Roman ideals of strength, endurance, and moral integrity. His labors served as reminders of the virtues that Romans aspired to: hard work, courage in the face of adversity, and the ability to overcome obstacles. In a world where the powerful ruled, Hercules represented the common man's struggle against tyranny and despair. But Hercules' story is not without its sorrows. Beneath the surface of his heroic deeds lies a man burdened by the weight of his past. He endured betrayal, loss, and moments of deep despair. The guilt of his actions haunted him, particularly after he was driven mad by Hera and tragically killed his own wife and children. This darker chapter of his life adds a layer of complexity to his character, transforming him from a mere hero to a relatable figure grappling with profound loss and regret. It reminds us that even the strongest among us can falter, and that true strength lies in the ability to rise again. His story resonates with people from all walks of life. We see in Hercules our own struggles, our battles against inner demons, and our quests for redemption. The challenges he faced echo our own journeys through pain and triumph, inspiring us to confront our fears and strive for greatness despite the odds. In Hercules, we find a reflection of ourselves, a reminder that we all have the capacity for heroism, even in our most vulnerable moments. The tales of Hercules are timeless, transcending generations and cultures. They speak to the universal human experience, capturing the essence of courage, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of one's destiny. His legacy continues to thrive in literature, art, and modern media, where new interpretations breathe life into his myth. Through films, books, and plays, Hercules remains a source of inspiration, encouraging us to embrace our challenges and strive for greatness. As we reflect on the origins of Hercules, we recognize that his journey is not just a series of legendary feats. It is a profound exploration of the human spirit, its strengths, weaknesses, and the enduring hope that lies within us all. Hercules' story invites us to believe in the power of perseverance, the importance of facing our fears, and the belief that we, too, can rise from our struggles to achieve greatness. His tale is not merely one of myth, it is a heartfelt reminder of the hero that exists within each of us, waiting to emerge in the face of life's greatest challenges. The Nemean lion loomed large in the hearts of the people, not just as a creature of terrifying strength, but as a symbol of the insurmountable challenges that life can throw at us. With its thick golden fur, which no weapon could pierce, and its massive claws that could shred through armor, the lion struck fear into the bravest of hearts. This was no ordinary beast, it was a monstrous guardian of the valley, a creature that devoured anyone who dared to approach. Many had tried to kill it, but all had failed, their bodies left as grim reminders of its power. The stories of its ferocity echoed throughout the land, casting a shadow of dread wherever they were told. Hercules, already burdened with the weight of his trials, stood at the edge of Nemea, gazing into the darkness of the lion's lair. His heart raced with a mix of fear and determination. This was his first labor, and it felt like more than just a task, it was a test of his very spirit. As he approached the entrance to the cave, the air grew heavy with tension. The echoes of growls and roars reverberated around him, reminding him of the lion's terrifying reputation. Yet, deep within him burned a fire of courage. Hercules was not one to back down from a challenge, no matter how daunting. He took a moment to steady himself, focusing on the task ahead. Armed with only his club and sheer will, Hercules stepped into the darkness, knowing that this battle would require more than just strength. It would require strategy and heart. He remembered the tales of the lion's incredible speed and agility. Charging in recklessly would only lead to his doom. Instead, he needed a plan. He could not defeat this beast by force alone. As he ventured deeper into the cave, the flickering light from his torch illuminated the outline of the lion's massive form. It lay there, asleep, its chest rising and falling with each powerful breath. Hercules felt a surge of adrenaline rush through him. He knew this was his chance. But even as he readied himself for battle, he couldn't shake the feeling of reverence for this creature. The Nemean lion was a force of nature, a being of untamed power. Hercules felt a deep connection, a recognition of the struggle that all creatures face in their existence. With each head they cut off and cauterized, Hercules felt a surge of hope. This was not just a physical battle, it was about teamwork and the power of friendship. As the Hydra continued to thrash and roar, Hercules realized that by collaborating with someone he trusted, he was able to face the challenge head-on. Each severed head was a reminder that struggles could be overcome, even if they seemed to multiply in the face of adversity. But just as they seemed to gain the upper hand, the Hydra revealed its last and most fearsome head, the immortal one. It was larger and more menacing than the others, with a fearsome gaze that struck terror into their hearts. Hercules felt a chill of despair as he realized this head could not be killed by any conventional means. This was the ultimate test of his resolve. In that moment, Hercules understood that true courage lies not in defeating every challenge, but in accepting that some things are beyond one's control. He faced the immortal head with a mixture of fear and determination, recognizing that his strength alone could not conquer it. Instead, he needed to think outside the box. Gathering his strength, Hercules called upon the gods for guidance. In a moment of clarity, he remembered the teachings of Athena, the goddess of wisdom. It wasn't just about slaying the monster, it was about finding a way to contain it. Using his incredible strength, he struck the Hydra's head with a powerful blow, forcing it back. Then, with the last of his strength, he grasped the head and tossed it into a deep pit, covering it with a heavy boulder. This way, he could contain the beast and prevent it from causing further destruction. As the dust settled, Hercules stood exhausted but triumphant. He had faced a creature that seemed impossible to defeat and emerged with a newfound understanding of strength and strategy. The lesson he learned that day was profound. Some challenges require more than just brute force. They demand wisdom, collaboration, and the courage to adapt. The Hydra's defeat was not merely a victory over a monstrous foe, it was a testament to Hercules' growth as a hero. It taught him that in facing life's struggles, he was never truly alone. With the support of those he trusted, he could confront even the most formidable challenges. Hercules emerged from that battle not just as a conqueror of the Hydra, but as a man who understood the true essence of heroism, the power of resilience, the importance of wisdom, and the strength found in unity. The Ceryneian hind was no ordinary deer. It was a magnificent creature, larger than any other in the forest, with golden antlers that sparkled like sunlight filtering through the leaves. Its legs were slender yet powerful, allowing it to dart through the trees with an agility that seemed almost otherworldly. To catch sight of this sacred deer was considered a rare blessing, and to lay eyes on it was to glimpse the divine. Many had tried to capture it, but none had succeeded. The hind was a symbol of purity and grace, a guardian of the sacred grove that was revered by both mortals and gods. Hercules stood at the edge of the forest, determination burning in his heart. This labor would not be about brute strength. It would demand patience and restraint, qualities he had often struggled to master. He had faced monstrous beasts and endured fierce battles, but this time he would be tested in a way he had never experienced before. The hind was swift, and it would not allow itself to be captured easily. As he gazed into the depths of the woods, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was not just a hunt, it was a quest for understanding. As he stepped into the forest, the air was filled with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. The scent of damp earth surrounded him, grounding him in the moment. He moved quietly, carefully, aware that the slightest noise could scare the hind away. The pursuit of this creature would require more than just speed. It would require a deep respect for its spirit and a commitment to honoring its freedom. Days turned into nights as Hercules searched for the hind, tracking its movements through the dense underbrush. He discovered its favorite feeding spots, where delicate flowers bloomed and the grass grew lush. Each time he spotted a glimpse of gold or heard a soft rustle, his heart would race, only for the hind to vanish like a whisper in the wind. It was a game of patience, one that tested his resolve and forced him to confront his desires. Hercules realized that this labor was more than just about capturing the hind. It was about understanding what it meant to pursue something sacred. With every failed attempt, he felt the weight of his ambition. He knew that his strength and determination alone would not be enough. The deer was a creature of the wild, a symbol of beauty that deserved to roam free. He was reminded of the lessons taught by his mother, who had often spoken of the importance of respect for nature and the balance of life. One morning, as the sun broke through the trees, casting a golden light over the forest, Hercules heard the gentle sound of hooves on the forest floor. His heart leaped. He followed the sound, his breath catching in his throat as he spotted the Ceryneian hind standing majestically on a small hill, the morning sun illuminating its golden fur. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. The deer was more beautiful than he had imagined, embodying the grace and serenity of the forest. But as he prepared to approach, he felt a pull within him. The deer was sacred, a being that belonged to the gods. Would capturing it really prove his strength? Or would it only reflect his inability to appreciate the beauty of what was free? This moment forced him to confront a truth he had long avoided. Sometimes, the most powerful act is to let go. Hercules took a deep breath, allowing the silence of the forest to wash over him. Instead of charging forward, he decided to sit quietly, observing the hind. He watched as it grazed peacefully, its movements elegant and fluid. He began to see the deer not just as a prize to be won, but as a creature deserving of admiration. The more he observed, the more he felt a bond forming, one that transcended the hunter-prey relationship. Days turned into weeks, and Hercules continued to follow the hind from a distance, learning its habits and routines. He found joy in simply being near the creature, realizing that capturing it would mean taking away its freedom, something he had come to deeply respect. He had always believed that strength meant overpowering an opponent, but here he learned that true strength lay in restraint and understanding. It was a powerful lesson that challenged everything he had ever known. Finally, the day came when he had to make a decision. Hercules knew that his time was running out. The labor demanded he bring back the Ceryneian hind to prove his success. But as he watched the deer one last time, he felt a swell of emotions. The hind lifted its head, meeting his gaze with a knowing look, as if it understood his internal struggle. In that moment, Hercules felt a profound sense of connection, one that transcended words. With a heavy heart, he stepped back, allowing the Ceryneian hind to wander away into the depths of the forest. As he turned to leave, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The decision was not an act of defeat, it was a recognition of something greater than himself. By letting the hind go, he had found a new sense of purpose, one that would shape his understanding of heroism. Hercules returned to his tasks, having learned a valuable lesson about life, freedom, and respect for nature. The Ceryneian hind had transformed from a target into a symbol of beauty and grace, a reminder that true strength lies not in capturing or conquering but in cherishing and honoring what is sacred. He understood that the pursuit of the hind had changed him forever, teaching him the value of restraint and the importance of recognizing the spirit of the world around him. As he continued his labors, Hercules carried the memory of the Ceryneian hind in his heart. It was a lesson that would guide him through the many challenges that lay ahead, reminding him that sometimes the greatest victories are not the ones we achieve through force, but those we earn through love, understanding, and respect. The forest whispered its secrets to him, and in its depths, he found not just a challenge but a connection that would last a lifetime. The Erymanthian boar was a creature of legend, a massive beast that roamed the thick forests of Mount Erymanthus. Its tusks were like jagged daggers, and its bristly hide glistened in the sunlight, making it both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Many villagers lived in fear of this colossal animal, as it rampaged through their lands, destroying crops and disrupting their way of life. The boar was not just a beast, it represented the untamed forces of nature, powerful and unpredictable. Hercules stood at the foot of the mountain, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and apprehension. This labor would not simply be a test of strength, it would challenge him to consider the delicate balance between humanity and nature. The villagers wanted the boar captured, yet they seemed to forget that the creature had a life, a role in the natural world. As he looked up at the towering mountain, he understood that he was not just pursuing a beast, but facing the complex relationship between man and the wild. With determination in his stride, Hercules began his ascent. The air grew cooler and the forest denser as he climbed higher. He felt the energy of the mountain, a wild spirit that whispered through the leaves and danced in the breeze. Yet, with every step, he felt the weight of his task. Would capturing the boar truly help the villagers, or would it disrupt the balance of nature even further? The sounds of the forest enveloped him. Birds chirped, and leaves rustled in the wind, but somewhere deeper in the woods, the low grunt of the boar echoed ominously. Hercules' instincts kicked in. He had faced many formidable foes, but this creature was different. It was a manifestation of nature's raw power, and he needed to approach it with caution and respect. After hours of tracking, Hercules finally caught sight of the Erymanthian boar. It was magnificent, its massive frame moving through the underbrush with surprising grace. He could see the muscles rippling beneath its bristly coat, and a sense of awe washed over him. This was no mere animal, it was a force of nature that demanded respect. As he prepared to capture the beast, he felt a stirring within him. Was he meant to dominate this creature, to bend it to his will? Or was it possible that he could find a way to coexist with it, to understand its place in the world? These thoughts battled within him, and he took a moment to observe the boar. The creature paused, lifting its head and sniffing the air. Hercules held his breath, sensing that they were sharing a moment of mutual awareness. The boar was not just an obstacle in his path, it was a living being, deserving of dignity. Hercules' heart ached at the thought of the struggle he was about to force upon this magnificent animal. But the villagers' pleas echoed in his mind. They had suffered under the boar's rampage, losing their crops and livelihood. He knew he had to fulfill his duty, yet a part of him longed to find a solution that wouldn't involve brute force. Perhaps there was a way to capture the boar without inflicting pain. As the boar turned and charged deeper into the forest, Hercules sprang into action. He chased after it, weaving through trees and leaping over fallen branches. The chase was exhilarating, a dance of life and death. The boar was fast, darting away with an energy that was both captivating and fearsome. In the heat of the pursuit, Hercules began to understand the nature of the beast. The boar was not just trying to escape, it was fighting for its life, protecting its home and family. This realization fueled Hercules' determination. He would not only capture the boar, he would do it with honor, showing respect for the life he was about to take. Finally, after a long and exhausting chase, Hercules managed to corner the Erymanthean boar in a small clearing. The creature stood defiantly, tusks glinting in the dappled sunlight. Hercules felt the weight of the moment. This was the culmination of his labor, but he also sensed the heavy implications of his actions. With a deep breath, he threw a net over the boar, trapping it without harming it. The beast thrashed and squealed, a wild fury that filled the air with tension. Hercules felt a pang of guilt. Was this truly a victory? The boar's cries resonated within him, a reminder of the price of his success. As the dust settled, Hercules gazed at the captured boar. It was a stunning creature, its breath heavy and labored. In that moment, he realized that this victory was bittersweet. He had accomplished his task, yet at what cost? The villagers would celebrate, but they would not see the pain in the boar's eyes. They would not understand that he had captured not just a beast, but a part of nature that deserved to be free. Hercules carried the boar back to the village, feeling the weight of its body on his shoulders. The cheers of the townsfolk echoed in his ears, a cacophony of triumph. But inside, he felt torn. They hailed him as a hero, yet he could not shake the feeling that he had taken something precious from the wild. As he released the boar into a pen, he looked into its eyes, and they spoke volumes. There was fear, but there was also a flicker of understanding, a recognition that he was not just a captor but also a part of the same world. In that moment, Hercules understood that the true essence of heroism lay not in domination, but in empathy. The villagers feasted and celebrated their newfound safety, but Hercules stood apart, lost in thought. He had captured the Erymanthean boar, yet he had also captured a lesson about the delicate balance of nature. He knew he had to share this with the villagers, to help them understand that their safety should not come at the expense of the creatures that shared their land. As he looked at the boar, he felt a wave of responsibility wash over him. He had the power to influence change, to foster a respect for nature among the people he had saved. The boar had become more than a labor, it was a reminder of the beauty of the wild and the importance of coexistence. In that moment, Hercules made a silent vow. He would honor the boar's spirit by advocating for harmony between humanity and nature. The labor was not just a test of strength, it was an opportunity to connect with the world around him, to understand that every creature, great and small, played a vital role in the tapestry of life. The Erymanthean boar had taught him a profound truth about the implications of capturing nature's power. It was a truth that would guide him through the rest of his labors and beyond, reminding him that heroism comes not just from conquest, but from compassion and understanding. As he walked away from the celebration, Hercules carried with him a heart full of respect for the wild, and a commitment to protect the very essence of the world he had come to cherish. The stench hit Hercules like a wall as he approached the Augean stables. It was a foul mixture of manure and decay, a smell that clung to the air like a dark cloud. The stables were said to house thousands of cattle, and they had not been cleaned in years. To the people of the kingdom, these stables were a symbol of chaos and neglect, a physical representation of a problem that had been ignored for far too long. As he stood before the massive structure, a feeling of dread washed over him. This task would not be about battling monsters or capturing beasts, it would require a different kind of strength, a strength of character. Hercules knew that this labor was more than just cleaning, it was a test of his resolve and ability to bring order to a situation that had spiraled out of control. The filth represented everything that had been allowed to fester and grow, not just in the stables but in the hearts of those who had turned a blind eye to the chaos surrounding them. The people had allowed the stables to become a monument to neglect, and now it was his job to restore balance and dignity to a place that had been forgotten. With a deep breath, he stepped inside. The sight was overwhelming. Piles of muck lay scattered across the floor, and the air was thick with the stench of waste. It was a far cry from the glory of the tasks he had faced before. Here, there were no heroic battles or triumphant victories, only the grim reality of hard work that lay ahead. But Hercules understood that true heroism was often found in the mundane, in the acts that went unnoticed. As he began to clean, the reality of his task sank in. The muck squelched under his feet, and with each shovelful he removed, he felt the weight of the chaos lift just a little. Yet, it was not easy work. The hours dragged on, and the smell clung to him like a shroud. Hercules could feel the frustration building inside him. This labor was not just a physical challenge, it was a battle against his own doubts and the overwhelming nature of the task. Would he really be able to bring order to this mess? But as the day wore on, something unexpected began to happen. With each scoop of filth that he tossed aside, he started to see the ground beneath. It was like peeling away layers of pain and neglect to uncover something beautiful underneath. The muck was not just a burden, it was a metaphor for the struggles he faced in life. The chaos represented the burdens we all carry, whether personal, emotional, or societal. Hercules remembered the stories of the people who had come before him, those who had lived in fear of the Augean stables, afraid of the overwhelming task of restoring order. It reminded him of the moments in his own life when he had felt lost, overwhelmed by challenges that seemed insurmountable. He knew he was not alone in feeling this way. The act of cleaning became a reflection of his own journey, a reminder that sometimes we must confront our own chaos to find clarity. As he continued to work, sweat dripping down his brow, Hercules felt a sense of purpose grow within him. He was not just cleaning, he was creating a path to order. With every pile he removed, he envisioned a world where things were in harmony, where chaos had no place. He imagined a community that could thrive when it learned to confront its problems instead of allowing them to fester. The stables were just a small part of a larger picture, a representation of the struggles faced by many. Hours turned into days, and Hercules worked tirelessly. The stench faded, and the sunlight began to filter into the stables, illuminating the hard work he had put in. The cattle, once shrouded in filth, began to look healthier and more vibrant. They seemed to sense the change around them, and Hercules felt a connection with these animals. In cleaning their home, he had brought them back to life, restored their dignity, and reminded them of their worth. With every sweep and shovel, he realized that the act of cleaning was not just about tidying up, it was about respect, respect for the animals, respect for the land, and respect for himself. He was proving to himself that he could bring order to chaos, that he could face the darkness and emerge stronger. It was a lesson he would carry with him long after the labor was complete. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Hercules stood back to admire his work. The stables were transformed. What had once been a place of filth and neglect now sparkled in the sunlight, a testament to the power of hard work and determination. The cattle grazed peacefully, their spirits lifted, and for the first time in a long while, the air felt clean and fresh. Hercules felt a swell of pride within him, a warmth that spread through his chest. As he stood there, he understood that this labor was not just about restoring order to the stables, it was a metaphor for the struggle we all face in life. We often find ourselves surrounded by chaos, overwhelmed by our burdens and responsibilities. But through perseverance and a commitment to confront the mess, we can find clarity and purpose. This experience had taught Hercules that sometimes the most significant battles are fought not with swords or strength, but with the quiet resolve to take one step at a time. Each scoop of muck had been a step toward something greater, a reminder that no matter how daunting a task may seem, it is possible to restore balance and bring light back into our lives. As he left the stables, Hercules carried with him not just the satisfaction of completing a labor, but a newfound understanding of the importance of order in the world. He knew that chaos could never truly be eliminated, but by confronting it head-on, we could learn to navigate through the mess, to find the beauty beneath the surface. And in that beauty, we discover our own strength and resilience, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The air was thick with tension as Hercules approached the Stymphalian marshes, a place said to be haunted by a flock of monstrous birds. These were no ordinary birds, they were fearsome creatures with metallic feathers and sharp beaks, capable of launching deadly attacks on anyone who dared to enter their territory. The tales of their ferocity echoed in the hearts of those who lived nearby, as families had been driven from their homes, leaving behind empty nests and broken dreams. Hercules knew he had to face them, but fear tugged at his heart. As he stepped into the marsh, the ground squelched beneath his feet, a grim reminder that danger lurked close by. The skies above were eerily silent, and a sense of foreboding settled over him. The birds were clever and elusive, hiding in the thickets, waiting for the right moment to strike. Hercules' mind raced with the gravity of his task. He had faced monsters before, but these creatures were different. They thrived on chaos, and he could feel their hunger for destruction. He took a moment to gather his thoughts. In past labors, he had relied on sheer strength and cunning, but this was not just about him. He remembered the stories of the gods, how they had watched over him and aided him in his struggles. Perhaps he needed to call upon their assistance once more. With a heartfelt plea, he raised his voice to the heavens, asking for guidance, for strength, and for a way to confront these fierce foes. As if in answer to his call, a soft breeze stirred, and from the rustling leaves above, the goddess Athena appeared. Her presence was soothing, a ray of hope in a darkening world. "Hercules," she spoke, her voice gentle yet powerful. "The Stymphalian birds are not just a challenge of strength. They represent the chaos that can come from within. To defeat them, you must embrace your fears and trust in the support of those who stand by your side." Hercules felt a rush of energy flow through him. With Athena's words echoing in his heart, he understood that he was not alone in this fight. He had allies in the divine, and he would draw on that strength. Athena handed him a pair of bronze castanets, their surface gleaming in the muted light. "Use these to scare the birds from their hiding places," she instructed. "Once they are out in the open, you can confront them directly." Feeling the weight of the castanets in his hands, Hercules took a deep breath, preparing himself for what lay ahead. He understood that the birds were not merely physical threats, they symbolized the fears and doubts that had followed him throughout his life. But now, with Athena by his side, he felt emboldened. With a swift motion, he began to clap the castanets together, creating a sharp sound that echoed through the marshes. The noise startled the birds, causing them to take flight in a flurry of feathers and screeches. Their metallic wings glinted ominously in the dim light, and as they soared overhead, Hercules felt a surge of adrenaline rush through him. This was the moment he had been waiting for. But the birds were fierce, diving down at him with a vengeance. Their beaks glinted like daggers, and their cries filled the air with a cacophony of chaos. Hercules dodged and weaved, feeling the rush of wind as one bird nearly grazed him with its sharp talons. He realized that facing these creatures was not just about physical strength, it was also about mental fortitude and trust in the divine guidance that surrounded him. Hercules quickly devised a plan. He needed to create a distraction to draw the birds together, and that meant using the castanets to keep them off balance. With a determined spirit, he clapped the castanets again, increasing the rhythm. The birds, confused by the noise, flocked closer together. It was as if they were under a spell, mesmerized by the sound that reverberated through the marsh. With a fierce cry, Hercules charged toward the nearest group of birds. He grabbed a spear from the ground, its tip glinting in the light as he hurled it toward the nearest bird. It struck true, sending the creature spiraling to the ground. But instead of feeling triumphant, Hercules felt a twinge of sorrow. Each bird represented a life, and he knew that in order to defeat them, he had to confront the darkness within himself. As the battle raged on, Hercules realized that he could not let anger and fear guide his actions. Instead, he focused on the lesson Athena had shared with him. These birds represented the chaos that could arise from unchecked emotions. He needed to find balance, to fight not just with brute force, but with purpose. In a moment of clarity, he began to chant, calling upon the strength of the gods and the love of the people he fought for. With each word, he felt the weight of his fears lift, replaced by a sense of unity and resolve. The remaining birds hesitated, sensing the change in the atmosphere. Seizing the opportunity, Hercules pressed forward, his heart now filled with compassion instead of fear. He launched his remaining spear, this time aiming not to kill but to deter. The spear struck a nearby tree, creating a distraction that sent the remaining birds into disarray. They flapped and squawked, chaos erupting among their ranks. In the confusion, Hercules gathered his courage. He understood that this was a pivotal moment, a chance to transform the battle into a lesson of understanding. He could not conquer these creatures with violence alone. He had to show them that they were not his enemies, but rather manifestations of the struggles within. As he approached the remaining birds, he raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I do not wish to harm you," he called out, his voice steady and calm. "You are creatures of the air, but your chaos has brought pain to the land. Let us find a way to coexist. I ask for your understanding." To his amazement, the birds began to settle, their aggressive postures softening as they took in his words. They circled around him, their metallic feathers shimmering in the light. Hercules felt a rush of emotions, a connection to the creatures that he had once viewed as adversaries. With newfound resolve, he realized that the true victory lay not in their defeat, but in finding harmony. The Stymphalian birds had been trapped by their own instincts, much like he had been trapped by his fears. By confronting them with compassion, he could lead them toward a better path. As the last of the birds settled, Hercules knew that this labor had been a profound journey of self-discovery. He had faced his fears and found strength not just in himself, but in the divine guidance that surrounded him. The battle had transformed into a moment of understanding, a reminder that true heroism is not just about strength, but also about empathy and compassion. As he walked away from the marsh, Hercules felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The Stymphalian birds had been a challenge, but they had also taught him a valuable lesson about the nature of chaos and the importance of finding balance within oneself. He carried this newfound wisdom with him, a guiding light for the trials that lay ahead. In the warm, golden light of the Cretan sun, a powerful beast roamed the land, its sheer size and strength striking fear into the hearts of many. This was the Cretan bull, a magnificent creature with a coat as white as snow and horns that seemed to touch the sky. Tales of its ferocity had spread far and wide, painting it as a monster of myth, one that crushed anything in its path. But there was more to this bull than just its power. It was a symbol of life, fertility, and cultural pride for the people of Crete. For Hercules, the task was clear. He must tame this magnificent beast, but how could one man hope to control such raw strength? Hercules approached the challenge with a mix of trepidation and determination. He understood that this was not just a test of physical might, but also of respect and understanding for the creature he was about to confront. He had faced monsters and demons, but this bull represented something different. It was deeply woven into the fabric of Cretan culture, an embodiment of their spirit and resilience. To tame it meant more than subduing it. It meant finding a way to connect with a force of nature that was both wild and noble. The air was filled with tension as he reached the open fields where the bull grazed. He could see its powerful muscles rippling under its coat, and he felt the ground tremble slightly with each stomp of its massive hooves. But Hercules took a moment to breathe deeply, gathering his thoughts. He remembered the wisdom of Athena and the lessons he had learned in previous labors. Strength alone would not win this battle. He needed patience and insight to truly understand the bull. As he approached, the bull lifted its massive head, eyes burning with a wild fire. It snorted and pawed the ground, ready to charge. Hercules felt a surge of adrenaline but held his ground. Instead of raising his weapons, he spoke softly, his voice calm and steady. "I am not here to hurt you. I wish to understand you." The words echoed in the silence, a challenge to both himself and the beast. The bull paused, as if weighing his words. Hercules knew this was a pivotal moment. He took another step forward, heart racing but determined. He could feel the connection growing between them, a silent understanding that transcended the noise of battle. He could see that the bull was not just a beast to be conquered, it was a proud creature, perhaps as scared and confused as he was. Hercules remembered the ancient rituals of the Cretans, how they honored the bull in their ceremonies, celebrating its power and grace. This creature was revered, not merely feared. He realized he needed to approach the bull as a partner, not an enemy. With newfound respect, he slowly reached out, palms open and visible, showing that he came in peace. The bull seemed to respond, its posture softening, as it studied Hercules with intelligent eyes. This was a moment of truth, a fragile balance between man and nature. Hercules took another step closer, heart pounding in his chest, and suddenly, as if a bond was forged in that very instant, he felt the energy shift. The bull relaxed slightly, its powerful body still, as if it could sense Hercules' sincerity. Hercules decided to try something different. Instead of rushing in with brute force, he began to walk alongside the bull, maintaining a respectful distance. He moved with slow, deliberate steps, mimicking the creature's natural rhythm. He sang softly, letting the music flow like a gentle breeze, calming not just the bull but himself as well. The song was simple but filled with warmth, echoing the spirit of life, of connection between all living things. Slowly, the bull started to respond. It turned its head towards Hercules, listening to the melody, perhaps sensing the calm in his heart. The two shared a moment, an unspoken understanding forming in the air. It was a powerful bond that transcended fear and aggression. Hercules could feel the beast's heart beating, strong and steady, much like his own. With patience, Hercules began to approach even closer, until he could feel the warmth radiating from the bull's body. He placed a gentle hand on its side, the muscles coiled beneath him like a powerful spring. The bull shifted slightly but did not bolt. It was a small victory, but to Hercules, it felt monumental. He had gained the trust of a creature once thought to be untamable. In that moment, Hercules understood the true essence of his labor. Taming the Cretan bull was not merely about capturing a beast, it was about finding harmony between man and nature. The bull had a role in the lives of the Cretans, a symbol of strength and fertility, and by honoring that, Hercules was not only completing his task, but also preserving a piece of their culture. As he moved with the bull, he felt a deep connection to the land and its people. The sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the fields, and for the first time, he saw the bull as a partner, not a foe. Together, they danced across the landscape, a majestic sight that drew the attention of the nearby villagers. They watched in awe, whispering among themselves, their hearts swelling with pride at the sight of their beloved creature being tamed not through violence, but through understanding. The villagers began to cheer, their voices ringing out like a chorus of hope and joy. Hercules turned to them, a smile breaking across his face as he held the bull's reins firmly yet gently in his hands. The Cretan bull was now a testament to what could be achieved when fear was replaced with respect and understanding. As night fell, Hercules knew he had not just tamed a beast, but had forged a bond that would resonate through the ages. The bull, once a source of terror, had become a symbol of unity and respect. Hercules realized that this labor was a reminder of the importance of compassion, a lesson that extended beyond his own struggles and into the very heart of humanity itself. The night sky twinkled with stars above, and in that moment, he felt not only like a hero, but like a part of something much greater, a connection to the world and to the people he fought for. The wind howled like a wild beast, carrying with it the scent of salt and danger as Hercules stood on the shores of Thrace. His heart pounded in his chest, not just from the anticipation of the battle ahead, but from the weight of the stories he had heard about the mares of Diomedes. These were not ordinary horses, they were fierce, man-eating creatures, cursed by the dark deeds of their master, King Diomedes. Their legend spoke of chaos and destruction, a whirlwind of hooves and hunger that left nothing but devastation in their wake. As Hercules gazed out at the rocky landscape, he felt a mixture of fear and determination. The tales told of how these horses devoured anyone who dared approach them, a terrifying image that sent chills down his spine. Yet he knew he could not back down. Each labor was a testament to his strength, his courage, and his commitment to atone for past mistakes. He took a deep breath, focusing on the task ahead. He had faced monsters and beasts before, but this was different. These horses represented the ferocity of nature unleashed, a raw force that demanded respect. In the distance, the sound of thunderous hooves echoed through the air, a reminder of the wild creatures that awaited him. Hercules steeled himself, recalling the stories of their past. They had been nurtured on human flesh, bred for destruction, and King Diomedes had turned them into his weapons, using their insatiable hunger to strike fear into the hearts of his enemies. Hercules felt a surge of anger at this tyrant who had twisted nature's beauty into a symbol of terror. This was not just about defeating the horses, it was about restoring balance and freeing them from the chains of their master. With a resolve that burned like fire, he made his way to the stables where the mares were kept. As he approached, the stench of sweat and blood assaulted his senses, a grim reminder of what lay ahead. The stables were nothing more than a cage, a dark and foreboding place that echoed with the cries of past victims. But Hercules was not afraid. He was here to end the madness. As he stepped inside, the mares charged at him, their eyes gleaming with a savage hunger. They were enormous, their muscles rippling under their sleek coats, and their teeth glistened like knives in the dim light. Each step they took sent tremors through the ground, a reminder of their power. Hercules felt his heart race, but he stood firm. He could not show fear, he needed to be the warrior he was destined to be. He grabbed a thick rope from the shadows, twisting it in his hands, preparing to lasso one of the beasts. His mind raced with thoughts of what it would take to subdue them. He had learned that strength alone would not win this battle, he needed to be clever. As the mares charged, he dodged their snapping jaws, his reflexes sharp and his focus unwavering. He could feel the heat of their breath against his skin, the raw energy pulsating in the air around him. In a moment of inspiration, Hercules remembered the power of distraction. With a quick flick of his wrist, he threw a handful of grain to the ground, catching the attention of the horses. They paused, sniffing the air, their instincts momentarily overridden by their hunger. This was his chance. He moved swiftly, wrapping the rope around the neck of the nearest mare. She neighed loudly, thrashing her powerful body in resistance, but Hercules held on, refusing to let go. The struggle was intense, each of them wrestling for control. Hercules could feel the energy flowing between them, a battle not just of strength, but of wills. As he fought to gain control, he realized that this was not just about capturing a beast, it was about understanding them. He spoke softly, his voice a soothing balm in the chaos. "I do not wish to hurt you. You are more than a weapon. You deserve freedom." His words seemed to resonate, and slowly, the mare began to calm. It was as if she recognized that he was not her enemy. Hercules took a deep breath, feeling a shift in the atmosphere. With careful movements, he pulled her closer, gently wrapping the rope tighter, but not too tight. The other mares watched, their fierce eyes reflecting curiosity. Hercules used this moment to his advantage. He focused on taming one mare at a time, building a connection of trust. Each time he brought a new mare into submission, he felt a piece of their pain unravel. They were not just beasts, they were victims of a cruel master. As he worked tirelessly, he saw the transformation taking place not only in the horses, but within himself. With each mare he tamed, he began to understand the depth of their suffering. They were once noble creatures, symbols of strength and grace, now turned into monsters due to the twisted desires of their owner. Hercules felt a surge of compassion, a deep sadness for their plight. He realized that by liberating them, he was not just completing a labor, he was giving them a second chance at life. When the final mare was subdued, Hercules stood back, breathing heavily but filled with a sense of triumph. The mares, now free from their master's grasp, no longer snarled but whinnied softly, a sound of relief and gratitude. They seemed to recognize that Hercules was not their enemy but their savior. With the mares finally under his control, he led them away from the stables and into the sunlight. The brightness felt like a rebirth, a moment of pure joy as they galloped into freedom. The villagers of Thrace watched in awe, their hearts swelling with hope. They knew that the terror that had plagued them was finally over. Hercules stood tall, a warrior not just for his own glory, but for the sake of those who could not fight for themselves. The mares had transformed from beasts of destruction into symbols of resilience and strength. In that moment, Hercules understood that true heroism lay not in the defeat of monsters but in the compassion shown to those who suffer. As the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Hercules felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had faced the challenges posed by the mares of Diomedes, not with rage, but with love and understanding. The battle had not just been against the horses, but against the darkness that lurked in the hearts of men. And in his victory, he found a deeper connection to all living things, a reminder that the true strength of a hero lies in the ability to yield. The air was thick with tension as Hercules approached the land of the Amazons. This was no ordinary quest. He was on a mission to retrieve the magical belt of Hippolyta, the queen of the fierce warrior women. Tales of the Amazons had filled his ears since childhood, stories of their strength, bravery, and fierce independence. As he stood at the edge of their territory, he felt both a rush of excitement and a hint of apprehension. This wasn't just about battling another foe, it was about navigating the complexities of gender, power, and respect. Hercules took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his purpose. The belt was more than just a piece of jewelry, it represented the strength of a woman who ruled with courage and wisdom. In a world often dominated by men, the Amazons stood tall, challenging the norms and defying expectations. Hercules admired their strength, yet he also understood the challenge that lay ahead. He had to approach this labor with a heart open to understanding, not just as a hero seeking glory but as a man willing to learn. As he entered the territory, he was met with wary gazes. The Amazons were known for their fierce loyalty to one another and their warlike nature. They moved like shadows through the trees, their presence felt more than seen. Hercules felt a flutter of fear. This was a world unlike his own. He had faced monsters and gods, but this was different. Here, he was an outsider, a man in a land where women ruled. Hippolyta emerged, a vision of strength and grace. She was regal, with a commanding presence that made even Hercules, a demigod known for his might, feel small. Her eyes sparkled with intelligence and fire, and her very stance radiated power. Yet, in that moment, there was something else, a flicker of curiosity as she studied him. "Hercules," she said, her voice steady but laced with intrigue. "You seek my belt, but do you understand what it means to wear it?" Her words struck him like an arrow. It was easy to see the belt as just an object of power, but what lay beneath its surface was a story of sacrifice, strength, and sisterhood. He felt a rush of humility wash over him. "I want to understand," he replied, his voice earnest. "I come not to conquer, but to honor what you and your people stand for." Hippolyta regarded him for a moment, and he could see the wheels turning in her mind. She appreciated his respect, but the question lingered, could a man truly comprehend the significance of a symbol created by women who had fought for their place in a world that often overlooked them? The Amazons gathered around, their curiosity piqued by the unexpected visitor. They whispered amongst themselves, their voices rising and falling like the leaves in the wind. Some looked skeptical, while others seemed to appreciate Hercules' willingness to engage. He knew he had to prove himself worthy of their trust. "Show us your strength," one of the Amazons called out, a challenge in her tone. Hercules felt a rush of determination. This was not a simple contest of brute force, it was an invitation to display his heart and character. He agreed to a series of tests, not just of strength, but of skill, compassion, and understanding. He competed in archery, using the bow as deftly as the Amazons did. He engaged in races, running alongside them, not just to win, but to connect with their spirits. Each challenge was an opportunity to demonstrate that he respected their culture and their way of life. Through every test, he felt the distance between them shrink. The Amazons laughed and teased him, their initial wariness fading with each moment. In return, Hercules shared stories of his own struggles and victories, weaving tales of bravery and sacrifice that resonated with their experiences. He spoke of his labors, the battles he fought not just against monsters, but against his own doubts and fears. As he built connections with the Amazons, a sense of camaraderie blossomed. They began to see him not as a threat, but as an ally. He learned that their strength came not just from their physical prowess, but from their unbreakable bond with one another. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with, proving that unity could overcome any challenge. Finally, the moment came when Hippolyta stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. "You have shown us your strength, but can you show us your heart?" she asked. It was a pivotal moment, a test that would reveal the true nature of a hero. Hercules nodded, ready to accept her challenge. She handed him a flower, delicate and beautiful, yet so easily crushed. "Protect this," she said, her gaze piercing into his soul. "Show us that a true hero understands that strength also means gentleness." Hercules took the flower and held it carefully, feeling its softness against his palm. He understood the weight of this task. It was not just about winning battles, but about recognizing the beauty in fragility, the importance of nurturing rather than destroying. He moved slowly, mindful of every step he took, feeling the eyes of the Amazons upon him. As he walked, he encountered obstacles, a branch that could easily snag the flower, a gust of wind that could threaten to carry it away. Each challenge was a test of his commitment to protect that delicate beauty. He realized that being a hero meant having the courage to embrace both strength and tenderness, a lesson that transcended gender. Finally, he returned to Hippolyta, the flower still safe in his hand. He looked her in the eyes, his heart pounding. "I understand now. Strength is not just about defeating others, it's about lifting them up. It's about protecting what is precious, whether it's a flower or the bonds we share." Hippolyta smiled, a warm light igniting in her eyes. "You have proven yourself worthy," she declared. "The belt is yours, not because of your strength alone, but because you understand the value of respect, compassion, and unity. These are the true qualities of a hero." As she placed the belt in his hands, Hercules felt a wave of emotion wash over him. The weight of it was more than physical, it was a symbol of the lessons he had learned and the connections he had forged. The belt represented not just his victory, but a celebration of the strength found in diversity and recognizing the power of women who fought for their place in a world that often overlooked them. As he prepared to leave the land of the Amazons, he looked back one last time, his heart swelling with gratitude. He had come seeking a belt, but he had found so much more. He had discovered the essence of true heroism, the ability to honor, uplift, and unite, regardless of gender. In that moment, Hercules understood that the strength of a hero lay not just in their physical prowess, but in their heart, their willingness to learn, and their ability to build bridges across divides. The wind howled like a restless spirit as Hercules prepared for his 10th labor. He had faced terrifying beasts and daunting challenges, but this task would take him to the very ends of the earth. He was to capture the cattle of Geryon, a creature unlike any he had encountered before. Geryon was a giant with 3 bodies, each one as fierce as the last, and his cattle were said to be the finest in the world. This was not just a test of strength, it was a test of endurance, determination, and resilience. As Hercules set out, he felt the weight of his mission heavy on his shoulders. He knew this journey would take him far from the familiar lands of Greece into the unknown. The horizon stretched before him, and with each step, he felt the pull of adventure mixed with trepidation. The road ahead was not merely a path, it was a metaphor for the struggles of life itself, a journey filled with obstacles that could easily break the spirit of even the strongest man. Hercules traveled through treacherous mountains and vast deserts, each step taking him further from home and deeper into the heart of darkness. The landscape was harsh, a stark reminder of the challenges he would face. It was easy to feel alone in such a vast expanse, but Hercules carried within him the lessons of his past. Every labor had prepared him for this moment, teaching him about courage, sacrifice, and the importance of believing in oneself. On the way, he encountered strange creatures and faced harsh climates that tested his resolve. There were moments when doubt crept in, whispering cruel thoughts that perhaps he was not meant for this journey. But every time he faltered, he remembered the faces of those who believed in him. The support of friends and family fueled his determination. Each challenge was a step closer to proving that he could overcome anything, even the darkness that threatened to consume him. As he approached the end of the world, Hercules found himself at the edge of a great ocean. The waters churned violently, crashing against the rocks like the heartbeats of ancient gods. It was here that he would find Geryon and the magnificent cattle. The sight was breathtaking, but it was also intimidating. He felt the weight of the world pressing down on him, a reminder of all the expectations placed upon his shoulders. Hercules took a moment to gather his thoughts, looking out at the horizon where the sky met the sea. It felt like a moment of clarity, a pause before the storm. He remembered his purpose. The cattle were not just a prize, they symbolized the strength and resilience needed to conquer life's greatest trials. They were a representation of his journey, a reminder that even the fiercest battles could lead to beautiful rewards. With renewed determination, he approached Gerion's lair. The giant emerged, his three bodies towering over Hercules like a mountain. Each face wore an expression of anger and disdain, and it was clear that Gerion would not surrender his cattle easily. The battle that ensued was unlike any other. Hercules fought with all his might, using every ounce of strength he had. He could feel the heat of the giant's fury, the ground trembling beneath their feet as they clashed. As they fought, Hercules realized that this battle was more than a test of strength, it was a reflection of the struggles we all face in life. Gerion represented the fears and doubts that lurk within, waiting for the moment of weakness to strike. Hercules pushed through the pain and exhaustion, refusing to let fear dictate his actions. The fight was not just against Gerion, it was a fight against the darkness that threatened to overshadow his spirit. After an intense struggle, Hercules emerged victorious. He had defeated Gerion, but the victory was bittersweet. The giant's three bodies lay defeated, a reminder that every battle comes with a price. Hercules understood that strength is not just about winning, it's about the journey taken to achieve that victory. It's about facing fears, overcoming challenges, and learning to rise above the obstacles life throws our way. With Gerion defeated, Hercules turned his attention to the cattle. They were magnificent, their coats shining like gold under the sun. But as he approached them, he realized that capturing them would not be an easy task. The cattle were wild and unruly, reflecting the fierce spirit of their master. Hercules knew he had to be patient and gentle, understanding that true strength lies not just in power but in compassion. He spent days taming the cattle, working tirelessly to earn their trust. It was a humbling experience, a lesson in humility and understanding. Each time one of the animals would shy away, he learned to be patient, to approach them with kindness rather than force. This was a labor of love, a reminder that the greatest achievements often come from nurturing rather than conquering. As Hercules finally gathered the cattle, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This labor had transformed him in ways he hadn't expected. It was no longer just about bringing home the prize, it was about the journey, the lessons learned, and the connections made. He had faced his fears, fought against the darkness, and emerged not just as a stronger warrior but as a more compassionate person. As he began his journey back home, Hercules looked back at the land he had traversed. The journey had changed him, deepening his understanding of what it meant to be a hero. He carried the cattle with pride, but more importantly, he carried the knowledge that true strength comes from within. It's about facing challenges head-on, but also about nurturing relationships, understanding the importance of patience, and embracing compassion in the face of adversity. With each step, he felt lighter, as if the burdens of his past labors had been lifted. The cattle were not just a symbol of his victory, they were a reminder of the beauty that comes from overcoming challenges with grace and understanding. Hercules had journeyed to the ends of the earth, but in doing so, he had found something far more valuable. He had discovered the true essence of heroism. It wasn't just about power and glory, it was about the heart and soul that each individual carries, and the strength to face whatever life throws their way. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the world, but Hercules felt no warmth. His heart was heavy as he prepared for the 11th labor, the quest for the apples of the Hesperides. These were no ordinary apples, they were said to grant immortality. To grasp the fruit of the gods was to touch eternity itself. But with that promise came a weighty price, for desire often blinds us to the true cost of what we seek. The journey began with uncertainty swirling in his mind. Would these apples truly provide him with everlasting life? Or would they become a source of endless longing, pulling him further from the essence of what it means to be human? He had fought monsters, faced his fears, and emerged victorious. But this task felt different. It was about more than just strength, it was about the heart's deepest desires and the consequences that come with them. Hercules set off toward the garden where the Hesperides lived, the guardians of the apples. The path was shrouded in mist, a mystical realm that whispered promises of what could be, yet also warned of the dangers that lay ahead. With every step, the air grew thicker, weighed down by the dreams of countless souls who had sought the same prize. They had all craved immortality, yet few returned. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. As he neared the garden, Hercules encountered a colossal dragon named Ladon, coiled around the tree that bore the coveted apples. The creature was fearsome, with eyes that glimmered like burning coals. It was a guardian unlike any other, fierce and unyielding. Hercules realized that this was not just a physical battle, it was a test of his understanding of desire itself. Why did he seek these apples? Was it to escape death, or was it something more profound? As he faced the dragon, Hercules felt a wave of emotion wash over him. This beast was more than just a monster, it represented the fears and insecurities that gnawed at him. The quest for immortality is rooted in the fear of being forgotten, of leaving no legacy behind. In his heart, Hercules wanted to be remembered, to have his name etched into the annals of history. But at what cost? Was he willing to sacrifice his humanity for the chance at eternal life? With each step forward, Hercules felt the weight of this realization. He could defeat the dragon, but the victory would be hollow if it meant losing sight of who he was. The fight erupted, fierce and intense, but it was not just a clash of muscle against muscle, it was a struggle against his own desires. Hercules fought valiantly, using both strength and strategy. He dodged the dragon's fiery breath and aimed for its heart, knowing that to conquer the guardian meant facing the darkness within himself. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Hercules struck true, and the dragon fell to the ground, defeated. But as he looked at the creature, he felt a pang of sorrow. It was a guardian, protecting something precious. In his heart, he understood that desire often blinds us to the pain we cause in pursuit of our goals. The apples may grant him immortality, but at what cost? The lives lost and the battles fought weighed heavily on his soul. With the dragon defeated, Hercules approached the tree, its branches heavy with golden apples. They glimmered like stars against the twilight sky, beautiful and tempting. He reached out, and as his fingers brushed against the smooth surface of the fruit, a rush of emotions surged within him. It was not just the allure of immortality that drew him in, it was the desire for love, connection, and legacy. He longed to be remembered, to leave a mark on the world that would endure beyond his mortal life. But in that moment, he paused. The apples represented more than just a physical prize, they symbolized the deeper truths of life and desire. Would consuming them mean sacrificing the very essence of what it means to be human? To live and die, to love and lose, is to embrace the full spectrum of existence. The thought struck him hard, like a wave crashing against the shore. Immortality would mean living forever, but it would also mean watching those he loved age and fade away. Tears brimmed in his eyes as he realized that true immortality lies not in physical existence but in the memories we create and the love we share. Each life touched, every story told, carries a piece of us into eternity. He didn't need the apples to be remembered, he could live fully, embracing each moment, knowing that even in death, his spirit would remain alive in the hearts of those he loved. With newfound clarity, Hercules turned away from the apples, leaving the temptation behind. He walked back through the garden, feeling lighter with each step. The path he had taken had been filled with challenges and doubts, but now it was illuminated by understanding. The desire for immortality had led him to confront the truths of his own heart, reminding him of the beauty found in the transient nature of life. As he exited the garden, Hercules looked back one last time at the golden apples glistening in the fading light. They would remain untouched, guardians of a truth far greater than he had imagined. The journey had transformed him, teaching him that true strength lies not in conquering all but in understanding our desires and embracing the life we have, no matter how fleeting it may be. Returning to the world beyond the garden, Hercules felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had fought dragons and faced monsters, but the greatest battle had been within himself. He had chosen to live fully, to cherish every moment, and to let go of the illusion of immortality. He carried the lessons of the quest in his heart, understanding that the journey itself is what shapes us, not the destination. And with that realization, he stepped into the future, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. The air was thick with anticipation as Hercules stood at the entrance of the underworld, a dark chasm that seemed to swallow the light. He was about to confront his final labor, the capture of Cerberus, the fearsome three-headed dog that guarded the gates of the dead. Fear gripped his heart as he stared into the abyss, for this was not merely a physical challenge, but a test of courage and resolve. He had faced many monsters, but now he stood at the threshold of death itself. Hercules took a deep breath, feeling the weight of all his previous labors pressing down on him. Each task had forged him into a hero, but none prepared him for this. The underworld was a place where hope faded, where echoes of lost souls whispered in the dark. The stories told of those who entered but never returned. Yet here he was, ready to face the terror that awaited him. With each step, his heart raced, not just from fear but from the realization that this time, he was not just fighting for glory or redemption, he was confronting his own mortality. As he descended into the gloomy depths, the chill of the underworld wrapped around him like a shroud. Shadows danced along the walls, and the air grew colder with every step. He passed by lost souls, their faces etched with sorrow and regret. Some reached out, whispering for help, while others simply watched him with hollow eyes, embodying the darkness of despair. Hercules felt their pain seep into him, but he pressed on, reminding himself of his purpose. He was there to capture Cerberus, to confront the embodiment of fear itself. Reaching the heart of the underworld, he found the massive gates guarded by Cerberus. The beast was monstrous, with 3 snarling heads and a body that seemed to ripple with raw power. Each head barked and growled, creating a cacophony of sound that echoed through the cavernous space. The sight of the beast made Hercules' heart race. This was not just a creature, it was a manifestation of all the fears and doubts that had plagued him throughout his life. As he approached, Cerberus' eyes glinted with malice, and the ground shook with its growls. Hercules felt a shiver run down his spine, but he stood tall. He had faced many foes, but none had been this close to death. Drawing on the strength of all his labors, he remembered the lessons learned, the value of resilience, the importance of facing one's fears, and the courage to stand firm in the face of adversity. Hercules unsheathed his club, but deep down, he knew that brute strength alone wouldn't tame this beast. Cerberus was not merely an enemy, it was a reflection of his innermost fears, the fear of failure, the fear of losing loved ones, the fear of death itself. Instead of attacking, he chose a different approach. He had come to capture Cerberus, not to destroy him. With a firm voice, he called out to the beast, speaking with a confidence he didn't quite feel. "I am Hercules, and I come not to harm you, but to take you with me." The heads of Cerberus paused, their snarls softening into curiosity. It was a moment of vulnerability, a glimmer of understanding between man and beast. Hercules could see the fear in the creature's eyes, a fear of abandonment, of being left alone in the dark. Just as he had confronted his own fears, he realized Cerberus was just as trapped by his role. Hercules stepped closer, extending his hand. He didn't want to fight, he wanted to connect. "You are strong, Cerberus, but I am not here to harm you. I can offer you a chance to escape this place." The creature hesitated, unsure of how to respond to this unexpected kindness. In that moment, Hercules saw not just a beast, but a soul longing for freedom, much like the lost souls that roamed the underworld. With slow movements, he approached the beast, allowing it to sniff his hand. The 3 heads leaned in, their growls subsiding. There was a stillness, a pause where fear began to dissipate. Hercules spoke softly, reminding Cerberus of the world beyond the gates, of sunlit fields, the laughter of children, and the warmth of companionship. As he spoke, something shifted in the atmosphere. The beast's demeanor began to change, its aggression replaced by a sense of curiosity. The 3 heads turned to each other, their snarls replaced with quiet contemplation. Hercules understood that he was not merely capturing Cerberus, he was offering an opportunity for understanding, for connection. In a daring move, he reached for the collar around Cerberus's neck, knowing that this would be the true test of their bond. The beast tensed at first, but Hercules remained calm, steady. "Trust me," he whispered, his voice laced with sincerity. "Together, we can break free from the chains of fear." With gentle hands, he slipped the collar around Cerberus's neck. The beast let out a low growl, but Hercules could feel the tension begin to ease. He had faced death, but now he stood before life itself, the promise of understanding and compassion. The bond formed in that moment was profound, a reminder that even the fiercest of beasts can be touched by kindness. As he turned to lead Cerberus out of the underworld, the journey back felt lighter. The fear that had gripped him earlier began to lift, replaced by a sense of purpose. Cerberus walked beside him, not just as a captive, but as a companion, a reminder that even in the darkest places, there is a spark of light waiting to be ignited. Emerging from the depths, Hercules felt the warmth of the sun on his face, a stark contrast to the chill of the underworld. Cerberus, too, seemed transformed, no longer a fierce guardian but a creature searching for a new beginning. The two of them stood at the threshold of life and death, united by their shared experiences. Hercules had not just conquered a monster, he had faced his own fears and discovered the strength that comes from understanding. As he led Cerberus into the world above, he knew that the true essence of courage lies not in the battles fought, but in the compassion shared along the way. In that moment, he embraced the reality of life and death, finding beauty in the connections forged through understanding and love. The Romans were captivated by Hercules, a figure of strength, courage, and relentless determination. His stories echoed across lands and seas, weaving into the hearts of a civilization that saw in him a kindred spirit. In Hercules, the Romans found a hero whose struggle for redemption resonated with their values, a character whose trials seemed to mirror their own rise to greatness. They didn't simply adopt the tales, they absorbed them, adding layers of meaning and making him their own. The Greek Hercules was a son of Zeus, a demigod who took on impossible labors, enduring trials that tested his spirit and willpower. But as Hercules crossed into Roman culture, he was no longer just the son of a god or a foreign hero. He became a symbol of resilience, almost divine in his strength yet deeply human in his flaws. Romans admired his bravery, but also his humanity, his capacity to endure pain, and his determination to overcome impossible odds. When Hercules first appeared in Rome, he was celebrated as Heracles. But soon, his name changed, becoming Hercules, a version that felt closer to Roman lips, and his story began to fit the Roman soul. In this transformation, he retained his strength and courage, but new stories grew around him, ones that spoke to the Roman ideals of loyalty, duty, and sacrifice. This hero wasn't just a conqueror of beasts, he became a symbol of virtus, the Roman virtue of valor and character. Rome was a city constantly testing its own limits, overcoming adversities and pushing forward. Hercules, with his own labors, symbolized that journey. His tales reminded Romans of their duty to their families, their cities, and their gods. The Romans embraced him as a symbol of honor and resilience, portraying him not just as a demigod but as an ancestor of their people. His legacy took root in their temples and public spaces, where statues of Hercules stood tall, not as a foreign deity but as a revered part of Roman identity. One of the stories that found special meaning was Hercules' crossing of the Alps. Romans took pride in imagining him as a protector of Italy, a figure who blessed their land and defended their borders. His strength became part of the land itself, each mountain and river a testament to his presence. The Romans built temples in his honor, like the Era Maxima, a grand altar in Rome where Hercules was worshipped as a guardian of their city. They saw him not just as a hero of tales, but as a powerful spirit watching over them, guiding their victories and sharing in their hardships. Hercules' appeal in Roman culture wasn't only about strength, it was about endurance and the ability to face even the darkest battles. The Roman soldiers, marching off to distant lands, found inspiration in his labors, and the hero who faced monsters and death without wavering. He became a model of fortitude, a figure they could call upon for courage. To them, Hercules symbolized a warrior's heart, a heart that never surrendered, that pressed forward no matter the odds. As Hercules' influence grew, Roman writers like Virgil and Ovid began to weave his presence into their stories, tying him to the founding of Rome. In these accounts, he was no stranger but a figure who had long been a protector of the land. They spoke of his journey through Italy, his battles and sacrifices echoing the struggles of the Roman people. Hercules became intertwined with the story of Rome's beginning, his name carried forward by generations who looked to him as a reminder of what it meant to be strong and faithful. Even emperors claimed Hercules as a part of their legacy. They saw in him a protector, an ally whose spirit could bless their reign. In times of war and peace, Hercules' image was invoked on coins, in festivals, and in prayers, not just as a myth, but as a living symbol of Rome's strength. Statues of Hercules adorned their villas, temples, and public squares, his likeness a constant reminder of Rome's bond with a hero who, like them, had faced trials and come out victorious. In adopting Hercules, the Romans found not just a hero but a reflection of their own ideals. His story wasn't merely retold, it was reborn within the heart of Roman culture. They gave him a place in their families, invoking his name in moments of need and strength, believing that his courage would inspire their own. In every corner of Rome, from the grand temples to the quiet homes, Hercules was there, a hero who, though born of Greece, had become, in every way that mattered, a hero of Rome. In ancient Rome, the mighty Hercules was not only a figure of tales but a character who stirred the pens of the greatest writers, igniting emotions and crafting narratives that carried his essence into the hearts of readers. Roman authors felt a powerful connection to Hercules as his courage and strength mirrored the spirit of their own people. They painted his image with words, each stroke adding to the portrait of a hero who was as raw and human as he was divine. His struggles, his victories, and his heartache became central in the writings of poets and historians, who saw in him the embodiment of strength tempered by humanity. Virgil, one of Rome's most beloved poets, understood Hercules deeply, seeing in him a hero that Rome could truly call its own. In the Aeneid, Hercules appears as a figure who brings hope to a fledgling city and strength to a young hero, Aeneas. Virgil describes him not as an untouchable god, but as a figure who had felt the same weight of duty that Aeneas himself would carry. By recounting Hercules' feats, Virgil cast him as a protector of Rome, a powerful force who had once tread the same soil and fought for the same ideals. Hercules was not distant, he was woven into the very fabric of Rome's origin. His story carried a message, that even the strongest must bear burdens and that true strength comes from enduring them. Ovid, too, brought Hercules into the minds of Romans with his unforgettable verses. In his Metamorphoses, Hercules' labors are recounted with vivid imagery that makes readers feel the weight of each trial. Ovid doesn't merely tell of a hero, he brings Hercules' struggles to life, allowing readers to feel the tension and triumph of each labor. In his poetry, Hercules is a hero who isn't invincible, who feels pain, fatigue, and frustration but continues onward because he must. Ovid makes it impossible to ignore the humanity of Hercules, who, like any mortal, faces moments of fear and doubt. His version of Hercules speaks to everyone who has ever struggled against their limits and emerged stronger. Seneca, the philosopher and playwright, saw Hercules as a character rich in emotion and depth. His play Hercules Furens portrays Hercules in one of his darkest moments, his mind gripped by madness, driven to actions that would haunt him. Seneca shows us a Hercules tormented, struggling not against monsters but against himself, a man whose strength cannot protect him from his own inner pain. This Hercules is vulnerable, reminding the audience that even heroes can fall prey to suffering beyond their control. Yet, as the story unfolds, there is a glimmer of redemption, a hint that Hercules, though broken, can rise again. Seneca's words remind us that true heroism sometimes lies in facing our deepest fears and emerging from them, forever changed but stronger. Hercules also appeared in the works of Propertius, who brought a personal, almost intimate view of the hero. In his elegies, Propertius describes Hercules as a lover and a wanderer, a man who, despite his great strength, yearns for love and companionship. This portrayal of Hercules is not of a distant warrior, but of a man who feels loss and longing, who, despite his legendary feats, seeks the warmth of human connection. Propertius gives us a Hercules who is not simply heroic but profoundly human, a hero who, like anyone else, desires to be loved and understood. In the hands of Roman writers, Hercules was not merely a hero of legend, he was a reflection of the Roman heart, a symbol of resilience and vulnerability. Each author added layers to his story, crafting a Hercules who could inspire and comfort, a hero who reminded them that strength was as much about spirit as it was about might. Through their words, Hercules became a cherished part of Roman culture, a figure who, though originally Greek, had found a true home in Rome. In ancient Rome, the sight of Hercules captured in marble or bronze was more than just an artistic display. It was a moment frozen in time, a window into the power, resilience, and vulnerability of a figure who held a special place in the Roman heart. Each statue, each relief, told a piece of his story, a moment from his labors that resonated with the strength and struggle every Roman recognized. The labors of Hercules were not just stories, but symbols of endurance, persistence, and the ability to overcome. Sculptors carved Hercules with such detail that viewers could almost feel the weight of the lion's skin draped over his shoulders or sense the strain in his muscles as he wrestled monstrous beasts. They sculpted him with eyes that seemed to tell of suffering and resolve, a look that held both the fierceness of battle and the quiet strength of a man who has seen and endured much. One of the most famous sculptures of Hercules was of him holding the world on his shoulders. His muscles, strained and tense, bore the weight of the heavens, a symbol of his strength and his willingness to carry the burden of impossible tasks. His face in these sculptures often shows a mixture of pain and determination, an expression that reveals just how heavy his duties truly are. For the Romans, who believed so deeply in the virtues of resilience and duty, this sculpture of Hercules was more than a tribute, it was an emblem of their own values, a reminder that even the strongest were not free from struggle. Then there was the statue of Hercules after he slayed the Nemean lion, standing with the lion's skin draped over his arm, its once powerful jaws resting lifelessly beside him. The lion's hide was a symbol of his victory, but also of the bravery it took to face down something so fierce and deadly. Sculpted with incredible realism, the lion's fur and massive jaws looked lifelike, capturing the fierceness of the creature Hercules had overcome. His gaze in these statues wasn't triumphant but calm, even reflective, as if acknowledging the brutal nature of his work. For Romans who stood before this statue, it was a reminder that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it. Another frequent subject was Hercules in battle with the Hydra, a beast with multiple heads that seemed to twist and move even in stone. Artists sculpted each head, every snake-like curve, every terrifying maw with careful attention, capturing the chaotic fury of this moment. Hercules, in the thick of his labor, was shown wielding his club, his muscles taut with exertion, his expression intense. For Romans, the Hydra symbolized challenges that seemed impossible to overcome, ones that multiplied with every attempt to conquer them. Hercules' battle with the Hydra wasn't just an epic struggle, it was a reminder that even when obstacles seem endless, persistence is the key to victory. One of the most touching representations of Hercules was when he rested, exhausted but unbroken. Sculptures of Hercules leaning on his club, the look of weariness evident in his stance, his head bowed just slightly, conveyed a side of Hercules that felt raw and human. These depictions, where Hercules allowed himself to feel the weight of his labors, spoke to the Romans of a hero who knew exhaustion yet never gave in. His strength lay not only in his muscles but in his spirit, in the resolve that allowed him to keep going despite it all. These moments of rest, captured in stone, were a silent encouragement to anyone who felt the weight of their own struggles. In the art dedicated to Hercules' labor with Cerberus, the three-headed god of the underworld, the sculptors pushed the limits of their craft to convey the darkness and dread of the underworld. They depicted Hercules with a stern, fearless face as he confronted Cerberus, his stance strong, yet his expression filled with a strange calmness. Cerberus, fierce and terrifying with his three heads snapping and snarling, was sculpted with an almost haunting realism. The Romans who gazed upon this statue could feel the peril Hercules faced, yet they also saw the quiet courage it took to stand in the realm of death itself. This labor of Hercules, rendered so vividly, became a testament to the strength needed to confront life's darkest moments. The influence of these sculptures reached far beyond their visual appeal. In each piece, the artist wasn't merely sculpting Hercules, they were carving out ideals of bravery, endurance, and resolve that the Roman people held close to their hearts. To stand before a statue of Hercules was to feel a connection to the hero's struggle, to see in his labors a reflection of one's own battles, and to find a quiet encouragement in the unwavering look that Hercules held. These sculptures reminded Romans that strength was not always about triumph, but about resilience, about standing tall even when burdened by the heaviest of weights. Every statue, Every relief, every small detail crafted in honor of Hercules' labors was a piece of a larger story, a story that taught the Romans about courage, the endurance of the human spirit, and the beauty of relentless pursuit. The Romans gathered in the heart of their city, their spirits high as they prepared to honor Hercules, their hero of strength, endurance, and sacrifice. During festivals dedicated to him, a unique sense of reverence filled the air, mingling with the excitement of the crowds. These celebrations weren't just days of feasting, they were moments of profound reflection on the values Hercules represented, qualities that Romans cherished deeply. The grandest of these festivals took place at the Era Maxima, the great altar of Hercules in the Forum Boarium. This site was sacred, believed to be where Hercules himself had rested and offered thanks after his journey across the world. Here, Romans came to celebrate the god of strength with offerings and ceremonies that blended reverence and joy. They gathered from near and far, men, women, and children, their hearts and minds focused on the hero who had become a god. On these special days, priests led rituals in Hercules' honor, chanting ancient hymns that stirred something primal within the crowd. The air was filled with the scent of incense and sacrificial offerings, and every person present felt a connection to Hercules' mighty labors. Hercules, the one who had wrestled with beasts and descended into the underworld, was not a distant god to the Romans. He was one of them, someone who faced unimaginable challenges, yet never lost his will to fight. To honor him was to honor that spirit within themselves. During the festival, athletes took to the fields in competitions of strength and endurance, each test of muscle and skill a tribute to the strength of Hercules. Young men wrestled, ran races, and lifted weights, their muscles straining as they pushed themselves to their limits, mirroring the god they honored. The crowd roared as each competitor displayed feats of power, and in these moments, they felt the presence of Hercules, watching, approving. This was no ordinary athletic display. It was an act of devotion, a reminder that strength was not just physical but was built on courage and determination. The festivals also included feasts, where families and friends gathered to share food and stories. They shared tales of Hercules' legendary labors, the Nemean lion, the Lernaean hydra, the Ceryneian hind, as if he were a beloved member of their own family. Fathers told their sons about Hercules' struggle with the hydra, the monster with many heads that grew back each time one was cut off. Mothers spoke of the strength it took for him to capture the Ceryneian hind, a deer sacred to the goddess Artemis, and the restraint he showed in bringing it back unharmed. Children listened with wide eyes, imagining Hercules standing before each monstrous foe, undaunted. These stories brought the hero to life in a way that words alone couldn't capture. One special part of the celebration was the procession, a parade through the streets where statues and images of Hercules were carried high for all to see. Adorned with flowers and surrounded by musicians, these statues represented not only the hero himself, but the ideals he symbolized. The crowd cheered as the statues passed, and they reached out to touch them, to feel closer to the man who had become a god. In these moments, Hercules was not just an image in stone, he was real, alive in the hearts of those who celebrated him. For the Romans, these festivals were about more than just honoring a god, they were about connecting to something larger than themselves. Hercules' labors spoke to their own struggles, and the festivals reminded them that, like Hercules, they too could overcome adversity. Every Roman, from the strongest soldier to the humblest farmer, felt a kinship with Hercules during these celebrations. They saw in his labors a mirror of their own lives, a testament to the strength within each of them to face and conquer whatever challenges lay in their path. As night fell, the festival took on a quieter, more reflective tone. Families gathered around fires, the shadows dancing on their faces as they shared one last story, one last song for Hercules. In these final moments, there was a sense of peace, of unity, as if Hercules himself were there among them, offering strength, guiding them through their own labors, reminding them of the resilience that had made him a hero and would sustain them too. These celebrations were more than just rituals, they were a living testament to the power of stories, the endurance of the human spirit, and the bond between a hero and his people. As dawn broke over ancient Rome, the city began to pulse with anticipation. Streets that were normally filled with the hum of daily life now buzzed with a deeper energy. It was a day to honor Hercules, the legendary hero whose name carried the weight of strength, courage, and endurance. To the Romans, Hercules was more than a distant figure from myth. He was a source of inspiration, a god who had walked the earth, facing challenges that seemed insurmountable and triumphing time and again. His spirit touched the hearts of all who gathered to celebrate him. The sacred celebration began with a solemn procession. Men, women, and children, dressed in their finest, lined the streets as statues of Hercules were paraded before them. Crafted with lifelike detail, these statues captured every nuance of the hero: the hardened muscles, the fierce gaze, the lion skin draped across his shoulders as a symbol of his first labor. The crowd cheered as the statues moved through the city, hands reaching out to touch them, to feel close to Hercules as if he were a living, breathing force walking among them. Every detail, every chant, and every movement had a purpose: to honor the one who embodied strength and resilience. Around the Era Maxima, the great altar of Hercules in the Forum Boreum, people gathered for the day's rituals. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the smoke of sacrifices rose to the heavens. The priests, robed in white, recited ancient hymns, their voices steady and filled with reverence. This place was more than just a gathering spot; it was sacred ground, believed to be where Hercules himself had rested after defeating the giant Cacus. Each offering, every spoken word, was a gesture of gratitude and respect for the god who had become a protector of Rome. As the rituals continued, the celebration unfolded into a series of athletic games. Young men, their hearts pounding, lined up for contests of strength and endurance, each one determined to honor Hercules through his own feats. Wrestling matches drew crowds, as competitors grappled and strained against each other, their faces marked by the same determination that defined the hero they honored. Weightlifting, foot races, and displays of physical power followed, each one echoing the labors Hercules had endured. For the spectators, these weren't just games; they were a reminder that the spirit of Hercules lived within every Roman, that strength lay not just in muscle but in the will to face hardship. Even in the quieter moments, the spirit of the celebration lingered. Families gathered for feasts, their tables filled with offerings of food and drink shared in the hero's name. Children sat wide-eyed, listening to their parents recount tales of Hercules' 12 labors. The story of his battle with the Hydra, where each severed head grew back until he found a way to vanquish it, filled them with awe. Tales of his capture of the Ceryneian hind, where he showed restraint and reverence for life, painted Hercules not only as a fierce warrior but as a hero with a heart. These stories weren't just memories; they were living lessons passed down through generations, connecting the young to the hero's unbreakable spirit. As night began to fall, the atmosphere shifted. Torches lit the streets, casting flickering shadows that seemed to bring Hercules' spirit to life once more. The crowd, now hushed, gathered again at the altar, offering silent prayers. In the cool night air, there was a deep sense of unity. It was as if Hercules himself stood among them, a guiding force, reminding each person of their own strength, of their own power to face and overcome whatever trials lay before them. The celebration of Hercules was not just a ritual; it was a declaration of what the Romans valued most: strength, resilience, and the courage to keep moving forward, no matter how hard the journey. In the heart of Rome, the image of Hercules stood as more than just a myth; it became a living symbol of strength, duty, and resilience. To the Romans, Hercules wasn't only a hero of ancient Greece; he embodied the core of what it meant to be Roman. In his feats, Romans saw values that echoed through every part of their lives: a devotion to courage, a commitment to overcoming hardship, and an unbreakable sense of responsibility to family, community, and country. For every Roman, young and old, Hercules was a reminder that greatness was born not in ease but in struggle. Hercules' 12 labors, grueling and relentless, were no ordinary tasks. Each one tested the boundaries of what a mortal could endure, yet he took them on without hesitation, driven by honor and a powerful sense of duty. Romans saw in Hercules a spirit they valued deeply: the idea that strength wasn't only about physical power, but also about enduring even when it felt impossible. It was about pushing forward with determination, never retreating in the face of hardship. In the image of Hercules straining against the Nemean lion or wrestling with the Hydra, Romans found a reflection of their own ideals, a fierce tenacity that defied the odds, a loyalty to one's purpose that could not be broken. But it wasn't only his strength that made Hercules a beloved figure. His willingness to sacrifice, to endure pain for the sake of others, resonated with Romans in a way few other stories could. Hercules didn't fight for himself alone. He fought to protect, to serve, and to make the world safer. Whether it was capturing the Erymanthean boar or venturing to the underworld to bring back Cerberus, Hercules put himself at risk to fulfill his duties. Romans saw in him a selflessness that aligned with their own sense of civic duty, their belief that each person had a role to play in protecting and preserving the strength of the city and the well-being of its people. Honor, too, shone through every one of Hercules' actions. When tasked with cleaning the Augean stables, Hercules could have seen it as an insult, a task beneath his strength. But instead, he tackled it with the same vigor as he did his other labors. In this, Romans saw a profound lesson, that true honor doesn't come from recognition or glory, but from fulfilling one's duty, no matter how difficult or menial. In the eyes of the Roman people, Hercules was a paragon of humility, demonstrating that dignity lay not in titles or praise, but in the actions one took, and the dedication one showed to fulfilling their responsibilities, even when no one was watching. Perhaps it was Hercules' resilience in the face of overwhelming odds that resonated most deeply with the Romans. He battled monstrous creatures, defied death, and ventured to places no mortal dared go, all for the sake of his purpose. His story reminded Romans that true power came from within, from the ability to rise again after every defeat, to press forward no matter the cost. Romans embraced this quality, holding it close in their own lives, knowing that the journey to greatness would always demand sacrifice, but that through endurance, anything was possible. To every Roman, Hercules was more than a figure from ancient tales. He was the embodiment of values that defined the heart and soul of their civilization, strength tempered by duty, courage enriched by humility, and a fierce loyalty to their people and purpose. In every statue and story, Hercules lived on as a timeless symbol of what Rome aspired to be, a beacon of the virtues that formed the foundation of their world. A call to destiny echoed through Hercules' life from his very first breath. Born into a world of gods and men, Hercules wasn't given a choice in becoming a hero. The gods decided it for him, shaping his life into a journey where every step forward was a test, a challenge, or a confrontation with the unknown. From the outset, he was marked by hardship, but within each trial, he found a piece of his true strength. His identity as more than just a mortal man, but as someone destined to live forever in the stories of humankind. Hercules' journey was more than physical, it was a transformation, an awakening of spirit. Each labor forced him to confront fears, to face creatures no one dared approach, and to accomplish feats thought impossible. His journey began with the call to action, 12 labors, each more fearsome than the last. Every challenge symbolized a step further away from ordinary life and deeper into the unknown. It was not simply a list of tasks, it was a path toward understanding who he truly was, stripped of all pride, tested to his very core. Each step he took resonated with the experiences that anyone faces when pushed beyond their limits, when struggling to find courage in the darkest of moments. As he progressed through his journey, Hercules experienced what every hero does: isolation. Surrounded by monsters, facing the terrifying Hydra, or battling the enormous Ceryneian hind, Hercules often had no one beside him. He was utterly alone, with only his strength and spirit to guide him. In moments like these, Hercules revealed the true courage that lay within him. It was in this isolation that he found resilience, a lesson that echoes in the hearts of those who face their fears alone, who push on when no one else understands or shares the burden. Throughout his journey, he faced not only mythical beasts, but also his own inner struggles. These trials were not just physical battles, they were metaphors for the challenges we all face: the battle against doubt, the struggle to rise above anger, and the courage to act even when afraid. Hercules fought with all his might not only against the physical world, but also against his inner fears and flaws, finding that his true strength lay not in defeating others, but in mastering himself. The helpers he encountered, from Athena's wisdom to Apollo's insight, served as moments of grace, reminders that even heroes need support. These figures, appearing at the darkest hours, reminded Hercules that he wasn't entirely alone. They gave him tools and insights that would eventually lead him to victory, reminding us that even the strongest need guidance, that there is power in humility, and accepting help when it is offered. Each labor had its own lesson, a truth that would shape his spirit. The cleansing of the Augean stables taught him humility, that true heroism could mean doing the humblest of tasks if it served a greater good. Capturing the Cretan bull reminded him of the balance between strength and restraint, that to conquer was not to destroy but to master. And in each of these trials, Hercules grew, evolving from a figure of raw power to a hero whose journey was defined by his courage to face even the impossible with integrity and heart. Hercules' descent into the underworld to capture Cerberus, the final labor, marked his transformation's ultimate test. This was not just another beast, but death itself, the journey no mortal could make without leaving a part of himself behind. To confront death is to confront the ultimate unknown, to gaze into the darkness without certainty of return. Yet Hercules went willingly, driven by honor, knowing that to complete his journey, he had to face the very end of mortal existence. The encounter with Cerberus was his final act of courage, a moment that sealed his place among the gods, for no mortal could survive what he faced. Hercules' journey, his trials, his transformation, it all reflects the timeless pattern of the hero's journey. It's a story that resonates because, within it, we find our struggles, our fears, our hopes, and our victories. Each step he took brought him closer to becoming his true self, a hero whose strength was found not in his muscles but in his heart, and his ability to endure, to keep going no matter the odds. Through Hercules, we are reminded that life's greatest victories come not from avoiding hardship but from facing it head-on, from finding within ourselves the courage to take one more step, even when the path is dark and the journey long. Hercules was a hero unmatched in strength, a man whose very name became synonymous with power. But within his story, another side emerges, a hidden vulnerability that makes him so much more than just a legend. While the world saw his invincible might, few understood the depth of his inner struggle, a duality that haunted him from birth. The mightiest hero, born with the gifts of the gods, faced weaknesses as profound as his strength, making him not only a symbol of bravery but of the raw human soul, fragile and fierce all at once. The power he carried was extraordinary. Hercules could face down the most terrifying beasts, creatures that others could only fear in nightmares. He wrestled lions, subdued rivers, and conquered the monstrous Hydra, using his strength to overcome trials that seemed beyond what any man could endure. To watch Hercules in action was to see a force of nature itself. His muscles, his skill, his sheer presence, it was all mesmerizing. People saw him as the ultimate protector, a wall of power that could shield them from any harm. But beneath that powerful exterior lay something few could see, a man grappling with a weight that even he could barely carry. Hercules' strength was legendary, but it was also a burden. Imagine what it would feel like to have that much power, yet to be unable to protect those he loved most. There were moments when his power became a curse, when he hurt the very people he wanted to save. In a tragic burst of uncontrollable anger, driven mad by Hera, he killed his own family, a loss that no amount of strength could erase. The guilt clung to him, a wound that would never fully heal, a reminder of how even the strongest can be powerless against their own inner demons. Hercules was crushed by the weight of his actions, carrying his pain as deeply as he carried his strength, revealing a vulnerability that made him all too human. Through each labor, he fought not just monsters, but his own internal battles. The same hands that lifted boulders, the arms that could tame the wildest beasts, sometimes felt heavy with the weight of his regrets and his mistakes. Each task, each impossible feat, felt like a test of both his physical strength and his will to go on. The duality of Hercules was clear. He was a man struggling with forces both around and within him, striving to find redemption and a sense of peace he feared he might never achieve. In moments of silence, when the battles had paused, Hercules was left to face himself. In those quiet hours, he felt the emptiness that strength could not fill, the ache of loneliness that could not be fought away. He had faced the fiercest monsters in the world, yet the hardest battle was within himself, with the questions that gnawed at his heart. Was he only a weapon of the gods? Did his strength define him, or was there more to him than just raw power? Hercules' heart yearned for answers, for a way to reconcile the two sides of himself, the hero the world saw and the broken man he sometimes felt himself to be. His story shows how strength and weakness can exist in one soul, each shaping the other. His courage was not just in the feats he accomplished, but in his willingness to confront his own flaws and fears. Despite his great power, he understood loss, regret, and longing. He had the strength to bear not only the weight of his labors but the burden of his own mistakes. And somehow, he found the will to keep going, not because he was unbreakable, but because he had the resilience to face even his darkest truths. Hercules' duality makes his story resonate beyond his strength. He was more than his legendary might. He was a man who had felt the sting of failure, the emptiness of guilt, and the silent hope for redemption. The story of Hercules is not just one of victories, it's a reminder that even the strongest heroes carry their own wounds, that true courage lies in facing one's own heart, with all its contradictions and scars. His legacy endures not only because of his strength, but because of his humanity, and every victory and every flaw that made him who he was. Hercules, the greatest hero of his time, was a man defined by his trials. But what few realized was that his struggles weren't his alone. The gods, who watched him from the heights of Olympus, had their hands on his path every step of the way, shaping his destiny in ways he could never fully grasp. They both aided and tormented him, pulling invisible strings, sometimes lifting him when he faltered, other times testing the limits of his endurance. It was as though they couldn't decide whether to admire or punish him, caught between envy of his human resilience and a desire to see him suffer for his power. Hera's role in his life was one of relentless cruelty, her jealousy fierce and blinding. From the beginning, she saw Hercules not as a hero but as an unwanted reminder of Zeus's betrayal. Her anger fueled much of his suffering, casting shadows over his life from infancy. She sent serpents to his cradle, determined to snuff out his life before it could truly begin. But even as an infant, Hercules showed the strength that would later define him, strangling the snakes with his tiny hands, a foreshadowing of the struggles he would face again and again. Hera's hatred burned on, however, and she unleashed even greater torments, sending madness upon him, leading him to the brink of despair. In those moments, Hercules was reminded that even his strength had its limits, and he was left haunted by her malice. Yet not all the gods wished him harm. Some, like Athena, stood as his silent protectors, guiding him when the darkness of his trials threatened to consume him. Athena saw something in him beyond his brute strength. She recognized his courage, his will to keep going despite the unimaginable weight he carried. When faced with the ferocious Nemean lion, it was Athena who whispered the idea to use the lion's own claws to skin its invulnerable hide, allowing Hercules to turn his enemy's strength into a tool of his own. Athena's guidance was subtle, like a gentle nudge in the right direction, and it often made all the difference between life and death for him. The gods intervened in his battles not always out of kindness, but as a test of his spirit. When he faced the terrifying Hydra, it was as if the gods themselves had crafted a monster to challenge his every move, each head he severed growing back twice over, an embodiment of relentless difficulty. But Hercules didn't face it alone. This time, his nephew Iolaus came to his aid, bringing fire to sear each neck as it was cut. The gods didn't make his trials easy, but they allowed him the allies and tools to overcome them. It was as though they watched with bated breath, curious to see if he could meet each new challenge they placed before him. Perhaps the most humbling influence of the gods came in his 11th labor, the quest for the apples of the Hesperides. This wasn't a task of brute force or resilience. It was a test of wisdom, of patience, and, ultimately, of trust. Hercules didn't know where to find the mythical garden that held these golden fruits, but he knew he needed the guidance of Prometheus, the fire-bringer and trickster. With Prometheus' advice, Hercules sought out Atlas, the titan condemned to hold up the heavens. Convincing Atlas to retrieve the apples, Hercules found himself momentarily free of his burdens, but only for a heartbeat before the weight of the sky was returned to him. In this labor, Hercules was reminded of his humanity and the divine forces that both aided and trapped him in equal measure. Even in his final labor, the capture of Cerberus, the gods held his life in their hands. To enter the underworld, Hercules needed permission from Hades himself. No mortal was meant to walk in the realm of the dead and return unscathed. Yet Hades allowed him passage, on the condition that Hercules could subdue the three-headed beast with only his own strength, no weapon to aid him. This was not just a trial of power, it was a demand to respect the boundaries between life and death. Hercules' success in bringing Cerberus to the surface was a testament to his resilience, but it also reflected the gods' ultimate control over his life. They let him cross boundaries no other man dared to, but they reminded him of the cost of such feats. Throughout his life, the gods intervened in Hercules' path, not always to help, but to remind him of his place in the cosmic order. For all his strength and valor, Hercules was at their mercy, a mortal blessed and cursed by the whims of immortals. His triumphs were his own, yet every victory was tinged with the knowledge that his fate was not his to decide alone. The gods watched him struggle, shaping his life through their influence, and though he achieved legendary feats, he remained forever at the mercy of forces beyond his control. It was this fragile balance between human courage and divine intervention that made Hercules' story so deeply powerful, a hero marked by strength, yet constantly reminded of the limits set by those above him. A soft rustling sounded, barely heard by mortal ears, but enough to signal that Hercules was not alone. Through every grueling labor, every impossible feat, the gods watched. Some stayed silent, hidden in the shadows, but others held his fate in their hands, stepping in with intentions that were as mysterious as they were powerful. From the moment he drew his first breath, Hercules' life had been intertwined with the whims and plans of the gods, shaping his destiny in ways that left him vulnerable, proud, broken, and unstoppable, all at once. Hera, the queen of the gods, watched him with a heart full of jealousy and anger. To her, he was a living reminder of her husband Zeus's betrayal, a wound to her pride that would not heal. She tormented him, hurling obstacles in his path, hoping to shatter his spirit. She was relentless. Hera sent down a madness upon him so fierce that he lost control of his own mind, turning on those he loved. In one fateful moment, Hercules was driven to the unthinkable, and the grief that followed almost broke him. His heart twisted in agony, haunted by the aftermath of Hera's cruel punishment. But this very despair would later fuel his strength. His labors would be both punishment and redemption, a path carved by the gods, but paved by his own hands. And then there was Athena, wise and discerning. Where Hera brought chaos, Athena offered calm and insight, guiding Hercules through his trials in subtle, vital ways. When he faced the Nemean lion, a beast whose hide could not be pierced by any mortal weapon, Hercules felt his strength wane, almost as if the creature itself mocked him. But Athena, the goddess of wisdom, whispered the answer to him. It was not a weapon he needed, but his own strength. Hercules seized the lion with his bare hands, wrestling it until he had subdued it. With Athena's quiet advice, he found the courage to push through, his victory a reflection of the gods' unseen but undeniable influence. The trials continued, each more brutal than the last. When Hercules faced the Lernaean Hydra, a monster with regenerating heads, he began to doubt his own strength. For every head he severed, two more grew in its place, each snapping its venomous jaws, seemingly laughing at his efforts. It was a challenge no man could face alone. But even here, the gods granted him help. With the aid of his nephew Iolaus, Hercules devised a way to sear each neck after he cut off a head, finally stopping the Hydra's relentless regeneration. The gods didn't lift the weight from his shoulders, but they allowed him the help he needed, a reminder that his battles were as much theirs as they were his. In the midst of these labors, there was a striking moment in his search for the golden apples of the Hesperides. The task was unlike any Hercules had encountered before. It was not a beast to slay or a monstrous task of strength, but a quest that required wits, alliances, and patience. Hercules sought guidance from Prometheus, the chained titan who understood the cost of defying the gods' plans. Following Prometheus's advice, Hercules approached Atlas, the titan condemned to hold up the heavens. With a cunning exchange, Hercules temporarily took on Atlas's burden, gaining the apples but also experiencing the crushing weight of the heavens, a reminder of the limits even a hero like him could face. But not every deity had Hercules' best interests at heart. There were those like Apollo, who appeared at times more as a challenge than an ally. The gods' interventions were often unpredictable, their favors dangerous. Apollo sent him to fetch the sacred Ceryneian hind, an animal no mortal had a right to capture. When Hercules finally caught the creature, he was confronted by the goddess Artemis, furious that he dared lay hands on her sacred animal. In his humility and respect, Hercules explained the burden placed upon him, appealing to her mercy. Artemis relented, allowing him to complete his labor. Yet in these moments, Hercules was constantly reminded that his strength alone was not enough to survive the gods' trials. He needed their mercy and their understanding, gifts that were rare and precious. As Hercules neared his final labor, he had faced trials that left him bruised, battered, and forever changed. His descent into the underworld to capture Cerberus was not only a test of strength but a confrontation with death itself. Hades, the lord of the underworld, agreed to let him take Cerberus, but only if Hercules could do so without weapons, relying solely on his own strength. It was as if the gods demanded a final show of Hercules' mortal limits, a raw display of human resilience in a world dominated by divine power. When Hercules emerged from the shadows with Cerberus by his side, it was not only his victory, it was a testament to a man who had faced the terrors of death and had returned. The gods, watching from afar, saw a mortal who had endured where many would have faltered. Throughout his life, Hercules stood as a pawn, a hero, and a victim to the gods' will. He fought battles with his own hands, yet every step was laced with their touch. Their presence lingered around him, both a blessing and a curse. They showed him no mercy but offered him strength. They imposed impossible tasks yet granted him fleeting moments of support. This balance, their silent intervention and relentless tests, molded Hercules into a hero both of his own making and theirs. Through him, they taught lessons of resilience, humility, and the heavy burden of destiny. In the end, Hercules was more than a hero. He was a symbol of human endurance, shaped by forces beyond his control, but also by his own unbreakable will. The gods may have guided his path, but it was Hercules, with his courage and perseverance, who walked it, bearing the weight of his labors, the pain of his losses, and the triumph of each victory. It was this blend of divine intervention and personal strength that made Hercules unforgettable, a figure both legendary and achingly human, forever marked by the hands of the gods yet forged by his own spirit. Each labor Hercules undertook tested not only his strength but the very core of his character. These challenges, each one harder than the last, held a lesson, a piece of wisdom about what it truly means to be a hero. Beneath every battle, every struggle, lay something more profound than victory alone, a raw and unbreakable code of ethics, of determination, and of sacrifice. It wasn't just about winning, it was about what he learned, the grit he gained, and the morality he discovered along the way. From his first labor, the Nemean lion, Hercules faced the daunting reality that sometimes brute strength wasn't enough. This lion's skin could not be pierced by any weapon, forcing Hercules to confront it with his own hands. Wrestling the beast to the ground, he learned that courage isn't just found in the tools or weapons one has, but in the heart. Victory came not from his strength, but from his sheer persistence, showing that sometimes raw tenacity is the hero's truest weapon. The lesson deepened with the Hydra. Each time Hercules severed a head, two more would grow in its place, an endless cycle that seemed to mock his efforts. Frustration nearly overtook him, but Hercules realized that facing this kind of evil required more than force, it needed wisdom and teamwork. With his nephew's help, they burned each neck to keep the heads from regenerating, finally defeating the beast. This labor taught him that a hero's journey isn't one of solitude. True strength lies in seeking and accepting help. Heroism is about recognizing that no one stands alone in the face of their greatest fears. Then came the Ceryneian hind, the swift, sacred creature of Artemis. Here, the lesson was one of humility and respect. Hercules could not simply overpower this creature without facing the wrath of a goddess. When he captured it and Artemis confronted him, he explained his duty and respectfully released the animal when his task was complete. This labor taught him, and those who heard his story, that heroism is not reckless, it carries a reverence for life, for boundaries, and for the powers that protect them. The lesson in the Augean stables was perhaps one of the most striking in Hercules' journey. These stables, untouched for years, were filled with filth beyond what any mortal would willingly touch. It wasn't a task fit for a warrior or a hero, yet Hercules saw it through. Redirecting rivers to cleanse the stables, he realized that true heroism also demands humility. No task, however unglamorous, was beneath him, for every labor had meaning. In this, Hercules showed that being a hero doesn't only mean defeating monsters, but is found in the ability to accept even the humblest of tasks with grace. In capturing the Erymanthean boar, he faced a beast of terrifying strength, but this time, his greatest challenge came from within. Faced with his own anger during a skirmish, Hercules learned a valuable lesson in restraint. His friend was caught in a crossfire, and Hercules could not save him, a burden he carried with him always. The true cost of violence, of anger unchecked, left a wound no monster could cause. He learned that heroism is not just about bravery in the face of danger, but knowing when to hold back, when to protect those he loves from the consequences of his own might. Perhaps his greatest moral challenge came with the Mares of Diomedes, fierce, man-eating beasts fed on the flesh of men. These creatures represented a darker side of humanity, reflecting back the horror of cruelty and greed. Hercules confronted this horror not with rage, but with sorrow. He overpowered the beasts, but was haunted by the lives they had taken. In taming them, Hercules recognized that heroism sometimes demands facing humanity's darkest aspects, not with vengeance, but with compassion and a commitment to end the cycle of violence. In his pursuit of the apples of the Hesperides, Hercules encountered a test not just of strength, but of honesty and trust. He struck a deal with Atlas, who held the heavens on his shoulders, offering to bear the burden while Atlas retrieved the apples. Yet when Atlas attempted to abandon him, Hercules didn't respond with anger. Instead, he used wit and persuasion to return the burden to Atlas. This labor taught him that honor and integrity are as much a part of a hero's duty as strength. In the end, it wasn't trickery that saved him, but his understanding of responsibility and his commitment to his word. Finally, in the darkest task, the descent into the underworld to retrieve Cerberus, Hercules faced the ultimate test, the confrontation with death itself. This labor was no longer about defeating an enemy or winning a prize, but facing his deepest fears. The realm of Hades was a place of shadows and despair, and Cerberus, the three-headed guard, was a force like none other. To face death without faltering, to confront it barehanded without weapons, took more than strength. It required courage that even the gods respected. By bringing Cerberus out from the shadows, Hercules revealed the truth about mortality and heroism, that to be a hero is to confront the unknown, to face the inevitable with dignity, and to emerge on the other side, forever changed. Through every labor, Hercules taught timeless lessons about courage, humility, compassion, and resilience. His journey wasn't just a story of victory after victory, but a reminder of what it means to be human, to struggle, to fail, to rise again with scars and wisdom alike. In Hercules' labors, the heart of a hero was laid bare, not in his triumphs alone, but in the humanity, strength, and ethics he discovered within himself. Across centuries, the story of Hercules has lingered, haunting the hearts and minds of those who come across his legend. Hercules' name has become a symbol, a word whispered in admiration or awe, as his story of trials, loss, strength, and humanity found its way into literature, art, and storytelling. In the hands of poets, playwrights, and artists, Hercules' tale transformed, becoming more than just a hero's journey. It became a reflection of the human spirit, enduring through every struggle, carrying on despite every burden. The Renaissance breathed new life into Hercules. Painters and sculptors who revered classical ideals saw in Hercules the image of a hero who was both god and man, flawed yet magnificent. In towering marble statues and intricate paintings, they showed Hercules in his moments of triumph and torment, each artwork capturing the raw emotion of his labors. His body was often portrayed as muscular, strained, bearing the weight of his ordeals, as if each labor left an invisible scar across his form. Artists like Michelangelo and Rubens rendered him with such intensity that anyone who looked upon these masterpieces could feel the struggles of Hercules, the exhaustion, the courage, the hope that surged and dimmed with every trial. In literature, Hercules became a symbol of resilience, appearing in works that celebrated his victories and mourned his tragedies. Shakespeare hinted at Hercules' strength and fortitude, while writers like John Milton and Dante Alighieri drew upon his myth to explore themes of redemption and sacrifice. In the Divine Comedy, Dante even placed Hercules among the virtuous pagans in limbo, recognizing him as a figure of virtue, strength, and wisdom despite his mortal sins. Hercules stood not just as a symbol of physical power, but as a testament to the moral struggle every soul faces, a struggle to rise above fate, to challenge destiny, and to find redemption in a world that often offers none. The poets of the Romantic era found in Hercules a kindred spirit, seeing in his tale a reflection of their own desire to transcend human limits. Lord Byron, with his passion for bold and daring characters, saw Hercules as a figure who was unbreakable yet vulnerable, a hero who bore his pain with courage, but whose heart was often heavy with sorrow. Hercules' labors became a metaphor for the romantic struggle, the fight for freedom, for truth, for the human soul's triumph over the darkness that threatened to engulf it. Art and literature also showed a Hercules who, despite his godly lineage, embodied human flaws and emotions. His mistakes, his rage, his moments of loss were as significant as his victories. The figure of Hercules allowed artists to grapple with the complexities of human nature, the ways we falter, the ways we rise, and the ways we carry on even when burdened by our own mistakes. Hercules was no longer just a hero of the past, he was a timeless figure, one who reflected the enduring struggles of humanity itself. The 19th and 20th centuries saw new interpretations of Hercules. In these modern times, his story found its way into novels, plays, and even the silver screen, each new portrayal revealing another facet of his character. Hercules was shown as a man who carried not just the weight of his labors, but the weight of expectation, of destiny, of his own humanity. His tale, stripped of its mythic aura, became more relatable, more poignant. Audiences saw in Hercules a man who was both powerful and vulnerable, a hero who, despite his strength, faced fears and doubts that were achingly human. The story of Hercules inspired not only admiration but empathy. He was a hero whose struggles were not just physical battles but emotional and moral ones, battles we all face in our own ways. In him, people saw their own fight against the odds, their own moments of weakness and triumph, their own search for redemption. Hercules' story endured not only because of his strength, but because of his heart, the heart that suffered, endured, and ultimately overcame. Today, Hercules continues to inspire, his tale as powerful as ever. The legend of Hercules remains not because of his feats alone, but because his story touches something timeless and universal, the courage to face trials, the strength to endure pain, and the hope that, in the end, we can overcome. Hercules' legacy, carved into statues, painted on canvases, and written into countless stories, remains a reminder that the hero's journey is one we all walk, each of us carrying our own labors, each of us striving to find our own place in the world. Hercules' story, ancient as it is, has never lost its grip on the imagination. In a world centuries away from the one that first told his tales, modern media has breathed new life into his labors. Now, Hercules isn't just a figure from Greek myth, he's a hero reborn in film, graphic novels, video games, and novels. His image is woven into the digital age, embodying struggles and triumphs that still resonate. In cinema, Hercules has emerged as a larger-than-life character, from muscular heroes on screen to animated versions that capture his adventures in vivid, colorful tales. The modern Hercules is shown fighting not only physical monsters but inner demons too. In these films, we see a Hercules who carries the emotional scars of his past, a man grappling with anger, guilt, and sorrow. His labors are often reframed as trials that challenge his spirit as much as his body. This Hercules isn't just battling lions and hydras, he's wrestling with loneliness, loss, and a sense of purpose, making him more relatable to today's audience. The hero's journey becomes one of self-discovery as well as glory, and we can't help but feel moved by his struggle to reconcile his godly strength with his deeply human heart. Graphic novels have transformed Hercules' labors into visual epics, blending classic heroism with modern storytelling. In these pages, he leaps from panel to panel, muscles straining as he faces new versions of his age-old foes. The Nemean lion, the Hydra, and the Erymanthean boar are redrawn with brutal intensity, while Hercules himself is often depicted as a gritty, flawed hero, carrying the weight of his sins on his shoulders. These illustrations bring his battles to life with an intensity that goes beyond words, highlighting both his strength and vulnerability. His face often shows the weariness of a man pushed to his limits, and we feel the burden he carries with each new trial. Through each stroke and shadow, Hercules' resilience and grit are magnified, drawing readers into his journey with every turn of the page. In video games, Hercules' labors are reimagined as challenges that players must overcome. Here, gamers are invited to step into Hercules' sandals to face down mythic beasts and impossible trials themselves. The appeal is immediate. Who wouldn't want to experience the thrill of conquering the Hydra or capturing the Ceryneian hind? Yet, in these games, Hercules' story is more than just an adventure. It's a test of perseverance, mirroring the ancient struggles of resilience, morality, and self-discovery. Players feel a sense of camaraderie with Hercules, living his labors firsthand and understanding the toll each victory takes. These games allow people to not only read about Hercules, but to feel his exhaustion, to understand his moments of doubt and anger, and to share in his victories. Through this immersive experience, the distance between ancient hero and modern gamer dissolves, bringing his story closer than ever. Modern novels and retellings explore Hercules' character in a way that often questions the nature of heroism itself. These stories show a Hercules torn between his strength and his weaknesses, his godly heritage and human flaws. We see him struggling with his violent temper, his moments of darkness, and his regrets over past mistakes. In some stories, Hercules becomes almost tragic, a man who can slay monsters but can't escape his own grief. His victories are bittersweet, reminders that true strength isn't just about winning battles but about enduring life's hardships. Through this lens, Hercules becomes a more complex character, no longer just a mighty warrior but a man shaped by sorrow, loss, and a desperate search for redemption. Animated adaptations bring Hercules to a younger audience, capturing the charm of his story with a touch of whimsy and warmth. Here, the monsters he faces are larger than life, yet there is a sense of joy in his triumphs and lessons in his failures. These stories simplify the themes of his labors, making them accessible to children while honoring the heart of his tale. They show Hercules as brave but flawed, teaching young viewers that even heroes have struggles, and that kindness, courage, and resilience are as powerful as any feat of strength. These adaptations remind us that Hercules' legacy isn't just in his battles, but in the lessons he leaves behind, lessons that can inspire even the youngest of hearts. Television series reimagine Hercules as a man caught between worlds, a hero seeking peace in a world that demands his strength. These shows often emphasize the emotional depth of his character, portraying him as a man burdened by his past and haunted by his deeds. He's no longer simply a warrior, he's a protector, a reluctant hero who finds himself fighting for justice, even as he battles his own inner demons. In these series, Hercules is portrayed as both hero and outcast, a man struggling to find his place in a world that views him as both savior and threat. The stories show him finding humanity in his labors, reminding us that strength is not about how much one can lift or conquer, but how much one can endure. Through these many forms of media, Hercules' labors continue to be retold, each new version bringing fresh insight into his journey. He is no longer a figure of the past, he has become a part of the present, a hero who speaks to the struggles and dreams of every generation. His labors are not just ancient feats, they are tests of courage, resilience, and heart, challenges that each of us, in our own way, can relate to. Modern interpretations of Hercules' labors capture his spirit in ways that make his story feel alive, relevant, and deeply human. There's something about Hercules that won't let go. His story, centuries old, still has the power to capture hearts and minds. The name Hercules echoes strength, endurance, and bravery, but it's not just his physical power that makes him unforgettable, it's his spirit, the courage to face impossible odds, and the ability to keep going despite unimaginable trials. Hercules has become more than just a hero of myths. He's a cultural icon, a figure who shows up in art, books, movies, and even in the everyday phrases we use. In art, Hercules appears not only as a symbol of physical power, but also as a representation of struggle, pain, and endurance. Sculptures show him in the middle of his labors, his muscles tense, his face full of determination. These images don't just show his power, they show the cost of it. He's often depicted after a hard-fought battle, when his strength seems exhausted but his resolve hasn't wavered. In paintings, he appears withered, with lines of exhaustion etched across his face, but there is also a glimmer of hope, an unbreakable spirit that has kept him alive through countless trials. The artwork honoring Hercules doesn't glorify him as invincible, it shows him as deeply human, a man who, despite his godly power, understands pain and loss as keenly as any of us. Hercules' story has even made its way into everyday language. When people call someone a Hercules or Herculean, they mean someone who has taken on a challenge most wouldn't even dare to face. His name has become shorthand for a person who is both strong and resilient. It's a title reserved for those who go above and beyond, who stand unshaken in the face of life's greatest hardships. When someone is called a Hercules, it's not just about physical power, it's about heart, courage, and an unwavering commitment to a cause, no matter how daunting. In literature, writers continue to bring Hercules to life, crafting stories that place him in new situations while keeping the essence of his character intact. Authors have reimagined Hercules as a tragic hero, a man shaped by both his victories and his mistakes. In these stories, he's not just a figure from ancient Greece, he's someone with fears, regrets, and desires. Through these reimaginings, he becomes even more relatable, a figure who shows that heroism isn't about being perfect. He struggles, he fails, and yet he rises again, a reminder that strength is as much about resilience as it is about might. Movies, too, have immortalized Hercules, bringing his story to the screen with action and emotion. Whether in animated form or live action, he has become a beloved character, a hero for children and adults alike. In these films, Hercules isn't only a powerful warrior, he's someone who learns, who grows, and who understands the value of kindness and friendship. Audiences feel the weight of his battles, not just against monsters, but against the shadows within himself. The movies portray him as a hero who doesn't just want to be strong, he wants to be good, to do what's right, even when the cost is high. And this Hercules, who is both mighty and kind, has left a mark on hearts around the world. Hercules' influence has even reached the world of sports. Athletes are often compared to him, their achievements measured in Herculean terms. They lift impossible weights, run distances that would challenge even a mythical hero, and face down obstacles that require not just strength but unbreakable will. For them, Hercules is a source of inspiration, a figure who represents what can be achieved when body and mind work together, when courage overcomes fear. When they're called Herculean, it's a testament to their dedication and to the idea that greatness comes not just from power, but from endurance and heart. Today, Hercules has even found his way into the digital world. His image, his story, his essence have been adapted into video games, where players can embody him, facing down enemies and completing labors as if they were Hercules himself. These games don't just recreate his battles, they offer players a glimpse into his strength and resilience. Players feel his exhaustion, his determination, and the satisfaction of completing each labor. In this way, they experience a small part of what it means to be a hero, feeling both the thrill of victory and the weight of responsibility. Hercules' name, his image, and his story have become symbols of more than just power. He stands for perseverance, the ability to keep fighting even when the battle seems lost. He reminds us that strength doesn't mean being invulnerable, it means carrying on, even with scars. It's why his story still matters, why it still resonates with people of all ages. Hercules has become an icon, a symbol of what it means to be both powerful and human, to face trials with courage, to bear the weight of struggles, and to continue, no matter how many times we fall. Hercules' story has lasted thousands of years, reaching across cultures and generations, leaving a mark on hearts and minds. Why? Because Hercules is more than just an ancient hero, he's a symbol of humanity itself. His strength, his resilience, his moments of weakness, all these traits form a timeless portrait of what it means to be human. Hercules didn't have an easy life, and maybe that's why we still feel his story so deeply. His journey speaks to the part of us that longs for strength, even when life feels overwhelming, and reminds us that bravery doesn't come from being unbreakable, but from getting back up, time and time again. In a world filled with struggles of all kinds, Hercules feels relevant because he faced the kind of trials we all experience in different forms. Whether it's his fight with the monstrous Nemean lion, his battle to hold up the weight of the heavens, or his descent into the underworld to capture Cerberus, each labor represents a struggle that isn't just physical but emotional and spiritual. When we read about Hercules, we don't just see a man who could crush boulders or slay beasts, we see someone carrying a weight much heavier than his muscles alone could bear. Hercules reminds us that strength is as much about heart as it is about might, and sometimes, the battles we can't see are the hardest ones to fight. Hercules' story also reminds us of the importance of resilience. He failed, he made mistakes, and yet he continued, facing each labor with a renewed determination. It's this part of Hercules that makes him more than a hero from ancient myths. He becomes a reflection of the strength we hope to find in ourselves. When life throws its hardest challenges our way, Hercules' example gives us the courage to press forward, to believe that every struggle makes us stronger and brings us closer to a version of ourselves that is more resilient, more understanding, more human. But Hercules' relevance today goes beyond just the individual struggles we face. His story holds a powerful reminder of the bonds we share as people. Despite his godlike strength, he often needed the support of others, whether it was the guidance of Athena, the wisdom of Prometheus, or the loyalty of his companions. This need for help doesn't make him weak, it shows that strength grows in connection. Hercules teaches us that leaning on others, seeking guidance, and sharing burdens doesn't make us any less strong. In fact, it makes us stronger. His story reminds us that we're all in this together and that supporting each other is the truest form of strength. Hercules also represents the timeless struggle between fate and choice. Though he was born with the power of a demigod, his path was shaped by decisions, sacrifices, and a willingness to face challenges head-on. In Hercules, we see a hero who fought not only against monsters but against the limits placed on him by gods and destiny itself. Even when he was tasked with the impossible, he chose to keep going, to fight, to endure. This part of Hercules' legacy tells us that while we may not control every aspect of our lives, we do have the power to choose how we respond, to shape our destiny through courage and determination. Today, as we face global challenges, climate change, social issues, personal anxieties, Hercules' story offers a powerful reminder of hope. In his labors, we see that even the impossible can be faced, that even the heaviest burdens can be carried if we approach them with strength, resilience, and hope. Hercules didn't know if he would succeed when he began his labors, but he continued because he knew that facing his fears was the only path forward. It's this spirit that we carry with us when we face our own labors, whatever they may be. We don't need to be perfect, we just need to try, to move forward with courage, and to believe that, like Hercules, our efforts will matter. In the end, Hercules' story isn't about perfection or flawlessness, it's about the enduring power of trying, of facing our fears, and of rising each time we fall. His legacy shows that heroism isn't reserved for gods or legends, but is found in the heart of every person who chooses to keep going, no matter how difficult the path may be. And as long as there are challenges to face and battles to fight, Hercules will remain relevant, a reminder that we, too, have the strength to endure, to rise, and to face whatever life may bring. Hercules' 12 labors were more than just feats of strength, they were moments that showed the power of resilience, humility, and growth. Each trial had a lesson hidden within it, shaping him into a figure of courage and wisdom. From wrestling with wild beasts to confronting unimaginable horrors, Hercules' journey teaches us about life, not through perfection but through the grit to keep going even when the odds seem impossible. When he was sent to face the Nemean lion, Hercules wasn't just up against a creature of immense strength. This lion had a hide so tough that no weapon could pierce it, an opponent unlike anything he'd ever faced. Hercules quickly realized that brute force wouldn't win this battle. He needed to think differently, to adapt. And so he wrestled the lion, meeting it with bare hands and relentless spirit until he overcame it. This moment reminds us that strength isn't always about overpowering. Sometimes it's about finding new ways to tackle life's challenges, shifting our approach to find solutions when the usual methods fail. Then there was the Lenaean Hydra, a beast with many heads that regenerated each time one was severed. Hercules learned that fighting the Hydra head-on would only create more problems. It took the help of his nephew, Iolaus, and the courage to try a different tactic, burning the stumps to keep the heads from growing back, to finally subdue the monster. Through this labor, we see that sometimes we can't win battles alone. Asking for help and accepting it doesn't make us weak, it strengthens us and allows us to overcome obstacles that would be impossible otherwise. Hercules shows us that the support of others is often the difference between success and failure. In his third labor, Hercules faced the Ceryneian hind, a creature so swift and elusive that catching it seemed beyond his reach. Hercules chased the hind for a full year, demonstrating incredible patience and persistence. Instead of wearing down, he stayed the course, never letting frustration cloud his focus. When he finally captured the hind, it was a testament to the power of patience, the idea that sometimes progress comes not from speed or force, but from quiet, unwavering dedication. Hercules teaches us here that patience can be as powerful as strength, that some goals are only achieved through steady and determined pursuit. The Augean stables presented Hercules with a challenge of a different kind, a task that seemed degrading and unsuited for a hero of his stature. Cleaning years of filth from these stables didn't just test his strength, but challenged his pride. He could have walked away, felt insulted, but he faced the task with humility, channeling his creativity to divert rivers and wash away the filth in a single day. Through this labor, Hercules shows us that true strength is found in humility and resourcefulness, and being willing to take on any task, no matter how beneath us it might feel. Every challenge, no matter how small, can be an opportunity to grow and show who we truly are. The next labor, capturing the Erymanthean boar, brought Hercules face to face with nature's wrath. It wasn't just about defeating the beast, it was about facing the cold, brutal elements, trekking through snowy mountains and enduring harsh conditions. This journey reveals the importance of resilience and preparation, of accepting that life's hardest tasks often demand us to step far outside our comfort zones. Hercules' struggle with the boar is a reminder that true strength comes from our willingness to face discomfort, to endure hardship with a strong heart and steady resolve. The labor of cleaning the Stymphalian birds tested his patience with creatures that seemed endless and overwhelming. These birds, whose sharp feathers rained down like weapons, couldn't be fought by conventional means. Hercules had to find a way to drive them away without direct confrontation, and he did so using clappers, a new strategy that surprised his opponents. Here, we see that sometimes, cleverness and creativity are as important as physical power. In our own lives, not every challenge can be met head-on. Sometimes, success means thinking outside the box and approaching problems with fresh eyes. In capturing the Cretan bull, Hercules found himself facing a powerful beast that wreaked havoc everywhere it went. But instead of fighting it with all his might, he used his strength to guide and control it, managing to lead it without causing harm. This labor teaches us the value of restraint and respect, even for those forces we may not fully understand. Not all battles need to end in violence. Sometimes, guiding our strength gently can be the greatest victory of all. The Mares of Diomedes brought Hercules face to face with creatures driven by a deadly appetite, animals that could only be calmed by a willingness to confront their chaos. Hercules didn't shy away from these wild beasts, taming them through his courage and determination. This labor speaks to the importance of facing the darker parts of life, those forces that seem terrifying and untamable. Hercules shows us that bravery isn't about ignoring fear, but stepping forward even when fear is overwhelming. When Hercules was tasked with obtaining the girdle of Hippolyta, he encountered the complexity of misunderstanding and deception. Initially welcomed by Hippolyta, a misunderstanding led to conflict, and in the end, Hercules had to complete his task in a way that left him with a sense of regret. This labor teaches us that life's challenges aren't always clear-cut. They're often filled with moral complexities and choices that leave lasting marks. Hercules reminds us that every action has a consequence and that integrity and empathy must guide our decisions, even in moments of conflict. The cattle of Geryon brought Hercules to confront isolation and exhaustion. After a grueling journey, he fought a fierce battle to complete his task, enduring fatigue, loneliness, and hardship. This labor tells us that sometimes the greatest strength comes from holding on, from pushing forward when every part of us wants to give up. Hercules' endurance is a testament to resilience, to the idea that even in moments of despair, we can find the will to keep going. The apples of the Hesperides involve trickery and trust, as Hercules sought help from Atlas to retrieve the apples. This task required Hercules to use his wits, and it showed that trust and strategy can be as vital as physical power. By convincing Atlas to take back his burden, Hercules reveals the value of thinking ahead and building alliances. Here, we see that sometimes our greatest strength is in the mind, and understanding people and situations deeply enough to navigate them wisely. Lastly, his descent to capture Cerberus was the ultimate act of bravery, a journey to the underworld itself. Here, Hercules faced not only physical danger but the very concept of death, confronting the unknown without fear. In this final labor, he shows us that courage is the foundation of heroism, that true bravery is stepping into the unknown with unwavering resolve. Through each of these labors, Hercules reveals not just a hero's strength, but the power of character, resilience, patience, humility, and courage. In these challenges, we find lessons that endure beyond myths and tales, shaping us and guiding us in our own lives. Hercules' trials mirror our own struggles, reminding us that within each of us lies the heart of a hero, capable of facing life's greatest challenges and emerging stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Every culture has a story, and every story has a hero or a tale of struggle, love, and transformation. Myths are not just old stories, they are whispers from our ancestors, guiding us, binding us together, and filling us with meaning. These tales are the heartbeats of cultures, shaping who people are, how they see the world, and what they believe is worth fighting for. They remind us that even in distant lands and ancient times, people asked the same questions we do today. Who are we? Why are we here? What does it mean to live a good life? The tales of Greece and Rome gave their societies characters like Hercules and Achilles, heroes embodying strength, courage, and the flaws of humanity. Through their triumphs and mistakes, these figures brought lessons to life. For the Greeks, Achilles was more than a warrior, he was a symbol of the struggle between personal desires and communal duty. In a society that valued honor and bravery, his story reminded them that even the greatest hero has weaknesses, that even invincible strength can be fragile. Hercules' labors, with their mix of overwhelming challenges and moments of clarity, painted a picture of perseverance that encouraged people to face their own trials with dignity. In Egypt, myths carried the weight of the gods' intentions. Osiris, Isis, and Horus were not just characters, they were life itself, representing birth, death, and rebirth. Osiris, god of the afterlife, became a symbol of hope, assuring the Egyptian people that death was not the end but a passage. Through him, Egyptians found peace with the cycle of life, seeing the divine in the harvest, in the flooding of the Nile, and in their own souls. Each year, as the Nile rose and renewed the land, it felt as though Osiris himself had returned, as though life was beginning again. For the Egyptians, their myths wove a worldview where all things, even death, had a purpose and beauty. In the far north, Norse myths thrived in the cold, raw lands of Scandinavia. The Norse god Odin was both wise and relentless, sacrificing his own eye for knowledge. The Viking people, facing harsh climates and tough lives, found meaning in these stories. They saw in Odin a god who valued wisdom over brute strength, a reflection of the bravery and endurance they respected. The promise of Valhalla, a hall of eternal feasting for warriors, made death less frightening. Through their gods, the Norse embraced life's brutal truths, finding courage in their battles and a promise of honor beyond death. To them, fighting with courage and living with wisdom meant joining their ancestors among the stars. Across the sea, the Native American tribes found their identity in myths that honored the earth and all its creatures. To the Lakota Sioux, for example, the buffalo was more than an animal, it was sacred, providing food, clothing, and shelter. Their stories of white buffalo calf woman told of a divine being who taught them how to live in harmony with nature. These tales honored the world around them, binding the people to the land, animals, and sky. Through the wisdom of their ancestors, Native American myths taught respect for all forms of life, creating an identity built on interconnectedness and balance. In Japan, Shinto myths brought the people closer to nature and their ancestors. The gods of Shinto were not distant, they were present in rivers, mountains, and trees. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, was seen as the ancestress of the imperial family, linking the people directly to the heavens. This connection shaped their identity, placing importance on respect, family, and nature. When people looked upon Mount Fuji or prayed to a river spirit, they were reminded of their bond with the divine. Their myths became living symbols of beauty, harmony, and reverence for nature, encouraging each generation to honor their ancestors and preserve the world around them. On the Indian subcontinent, myths from the Mahabharata and Ramayana are woven into everyday life. In the epic of the Ramayana, Rama, the perfect prince, represents virtue and responsibility, while Sita, his wife, symbolizes strength and devotion. Their story has shaped ideals of love, duty, and sacrifice across generations. It was not just a tale of heroism but a lesson in values that influenced how people understood family, respect, and loyalty. Even today, during the festival of Diwali, the homecoming of Rama and Sita is celebrated, lighting up towns and cities, reflecting a belief that good will always overcome darkness. In the vast deserts of the Middle East, the Bedouin people carried with them tales of jinn and great heroes as they wandered from place to place. These myths were as much about survival as they were about the unknown forces surrounding them. The jinn, mysterious beings of fire, embodied the unpredictability of life in the desert, while the heroes who tamed them showed that courage and cunning could overcome any obstacle. In these myths, the Bedouins found an identity rooted in resilience, resourcefulness, and a profound respect for the unseen world. Each of these cultures wove their myths into their identities, binding them to their lands, their gods, and their ancestors. Myths were more than entertainment. They were guides, grounding people in who they were and where they came from. They created a shared language, a shared understanding of life, and gave each person a place in the world. Through myths, a child knew the values of bravery, humility, and respect long before they could put those ideas into words. They learned that they were part of something vast and timeless, a story that stretched back to the beginning and forward to the end. These tales may vary, but at their core, they are filled with universal themes. Across continents and centuries, they teach love and courage, strength and sacrifice, hope and redemption. And while they reflect different landscapes and gods, they all show that humanity, at its heart, is united by the same questions and dreams. Through myths, people have found strength in times of need, hope in times of darkness, and wisdom to guide their journeys. They have found an identity larger than themselves, a connection to those who came before and those who will come after. In every corner of the world, myths continue to shape identities, inspiring people to live with purpose, honor, and love. They are not just stories of gods and heroes, they are stories of humanity, enduring, vibrant, and ever-reaching for meaning in the mystery of life. Heroes of ancient myths may seem far removed from the heroes of today, but if we look closely, we find that the spirit of Hercules lives on in our modern tales. Even after thousands of years, the echoes of his labors resonate in the characters we admire on screen, in books, and in the stories we tell one another. Hercules, the hero who struggled through impossible tasks, who faced darkness and his own weaknesses, reminds us that true heroism lies in overcoming our own limits. The image of Hercules, the hero who could hold the sky for Atlas, tame the monstrous Nemean lion, or descend into the underworld, became a symbol of resilience, courage, and humanity's fight against impossible odds. In his story, there is a humbling truth: even a hero as powerful as Hercules was still vulnerable, still haunted by his mistakes. This raw honesty about the price of heroism is what keeps his story alive, not just as a tale of ancient Greece, but as a timeless reminder that every hero, even today, must wrestle with their own trials. Take Superman, for example. Created during the Great Depression, he was designed to be a symbol of hope and resilience, much like Hercules was for the Greeks. Superman's story reflects Hercules in many ways: strength, virtue, and a sense of responsibility that often weighs heavily on him. Like Hercules, Superman isn't invincible. He has weaknesses and must choose his path carefully, making sacrifices to protect humanity. Each time he rises to save someone, he mirrors Hercules' labors, fighting to overcome adversity and shield the world from darkness. Though Superman comes from another world, his battles and the emotions behind them are as human as those Hercules faced. Batman, on the other hand, embodies the more personal, inner struggles of a hero. Unlike Superman's powers, Batman's strength is born out of his own endurance and determination, traits that Hercules embodied. Hercules' strength was not only in his muscles but in his spirit, the same relentless spirit that drives Batman to face criminals night after night. Batman's story is about facing one's demons, just as Hercules faced his own darkness and guilt. Hercules had to live with the sorrow of past mistakes, just as Batman lives with the grief of his lost family. Both heroes are reminders that fighting against one's own darkness is perhaps the hardest labor of all. Even characters like Harry Potter show traces of Hercules' legacy. Harry is thrust into a world he doesn't fully understand, filled with danger and forces far beyond his control. Much like Hercules, Harry is asked to face tasks that seem impossible, guided by a sense of duty and a love for his friends. His journey is about growth and sacrifice, learning to protect others even at great personal cost. Each time he steps up, he echoes Hercules' heart, the willingness to endure pain and hardship for the sake of others. In the Marvel Universe, characters like Thor and the Hulk carry pieces of Hercules' legacy as well. Thor, a god from Asgard, fights with godly strength and faces enemies of mythic proportions, much like Hercules did. And while Thor is powerful, he often struggles with his own pride, his duties, and his role among humans and gods, a reminder of Hercules' own conflict between his mortal and divine sides. The Hulk, with his uncontrollable power and inner turmoil, mirrors the duality within Hercules: immense strength mixed with an emotional battle, the struggle to control his own power and live peacefully in a world that fears him. Katniss Everdeen, the young heroine of the Hunger Games, embodies yet another side of Hercules. Though she does not have godly strength, her bravery, resilience, and willingness to face impossible trials for those she loves mirror Hercules' determination. Katniss enters a violent, deadly world and must survive not only through physical strength, but also through her emotional endurance. Her labors are battles against fear, against systems of oppression, and in many ways, she is the modern Hercules, showing that heroism is more than power, it's the courage to protect others, even when it means suffering yourself. The story of Hercules speaks to something deeply human: the desire to overcome, to protect, and to find meaning in struggle. He was a hero who made mistakes, who suffered, who loved and lost, and who faced challenges that pushed him to his limits. His story reminds us that being a hero doesn't mean being perfect. In a world that often celebrates invincibility, Hercules' legacy endures because it celebrates humanity, the heartache, the strength, the unbreakable will to keep going. Heroes today may wield superpowers or face futuristic foes, but the essence of Hercules is still there. Each time a hero rises, whether in comic books, movies, or our own lives, they carry a spark of Hercules' journey. They remind us that heroism isn't just in the battles we win, it's in the choice to fight, to protect, and to hold on to hope, no matter the odds. Hercules' story is the foundation, the ancient flame lighting the path for every hero who takes up a cause, who steps forward when the world needs them most. Hercules wasn't perfect, but he never gave up. His strength was a gift, but his courage was his own. And that courage, that resilience, lives on in every hero who faces their fears and fights for something greater. Hercules' story is one of strength, but it is also a story of vulnerability, a reminder that even the strongest heroes face moments of doubt, guilt, and sorrow. For every feat of power, Hercules bore scars not just on his body but in his heart. As he fought monsters, traversed lands, and conquered trials, he also wrestled with feelings that no divine strength could resolve. And in these moments, he becomes more than a legend. He becomes a reflection of human life itself, of every battle we face within ourselves. The labors of Hercules are not just about brute force or physical achievements, they are woven with emotions that feel all too real. His journey speaks to anyone who has ever faced an obstacle and felt the urge to turn away, the pull to give in. For Hercules, it was never just about winning or defeating some mythical beast, it was about proving something deeper, to himself and to the world, each step a testament to the strength hidden within struggle. In each of his labors, Hercules was more than a warrior, he was a man trying to find his way through a world that was often dark and unforgiving. There were moments when the trials seemed endless, each one demanding a new sacrifice, a new pain to bear. But he did not stop. Despite the gods' harsh demands and his own moments of hopelessness, he continued, driven by an unbreakable spirit that refused to surrender. Hercules' tale is one of resilience, and in that, it echoes in the hearts of those who face their own daunting trials, whether in daily life or moments of true crisis. Perhaps the most moving part of Hercules' story is the way he carries his mistakes with him. He is a hero, yes, but one who has suffered, who has caused harm, who has regretted and grieved. His strength did not erase the moments of darkness in his life. Instead, it was his ability to keep going, to atone, to accept his flaws, that transformed him into a figure of hope. In this way, Hercules' journey mirrors the human experience, the hope that we, too, can grow from our errors, that redemption is possible, that forgiveness, even of ourselves, is within reach. Hercules' battles may be legendary, but his emotions are familiar. For anyone who has felt overwhelmed, who has struggled to find meaning in suffering, Hercules stands as a reminder that true heroism is not about perfection or invulnerability. It is about resilience, about rising after every fall, about facing fears that feel as daunting as any mythological beast. And in that way, his story brings comfort, as if saying that we, too, can find strength, even in the most difficult times. Through his story, Hercules becomes a bridge across time, his struggles a reminder that pain, loss, and regret are universal. The weight he carried was not just physical, it was emotional, an unseen burden of guilt and sorrow that shaped his journey as much as any task. Hercules reminds us that even in a world that seems to demand strength at every turn, vulnerability is not a weakness. In his story, there is space for grief, for forgiveness, for the quiet, enduring courage it takes to keep going when it feels impossible. Hercules' journey shows that strength is not found in avoiding hardship but in meeting it, head-on, again and again. And as he faced these trials, he became something more, a symbol of hope for all who have ever struggled, a reminder that strength lies not just in what we can do, but in what we can endure. And in this, Hercules is not so different from us. He is a hero, yes, but also a reflection of what it means to live, to face hardships, to carry on. For Hercules, the journey was never about reaching a perfect, unattainable state. It was about the courage to confront both external and internal demons. And in every person who stands up to adversity, who chooses hope over despair, who faces life with resilience, there is a spark of Hercules. His story speaks to a truth as old as time, that we are stronger than we think, that even in our darkest hours, there is a strength within us that we may not realize until we need it most. The story of Hercules is a reminder that we all have our labors, that life will present challenges that feel insurmountable. And yet, Hercules shows us that there is strength in persistence, and the quiet courage to take one more step, to try one more time. His journey is a beacon, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Hercules was not perfect, and he did not need to be. He was brave, he was flawed, he was real. And in that, he becomes not just a hero of ancient Greece, but a symbol of the enduring strength within us all.